And we should be live.
It says live.
So, hello everybody, I'm Sushikat, and I hope you've all had a fantastic day or night. And I am here with Sushikat Rants with a couple of friends. If you guys would like to introduce yourselves.
I do not know any of these people in any way. I don't know why I'm here. Who are you? Why am I wearing a blindfold? My side is dead.
Hello, everybody. I am mortal, and I kidnapped this man. But seriously, I hope your social lives aren't too badly disrupted by this particular, what is it, a stream podcast, rambling rant?
Yeah, it's kind of a rant. It's kind of a sort of discussing various news stuff that's happened over the last week.
It's a rant with all the heat and sharp edges worn off,
Yeah.
as I understand it.
Yeah,
By
you know,
alcohol.
we've had a yeah, doped by alcohol. Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So, again, why don't you into us with the itinerary and why you even decided to Sushikat rants at all?
Well, there's been a couple of things. I know your particular pet story of this week has been Peter, and their rather polite letter to Games Workshop.
Yes, but we should get to that in due course.
Yes, and then Aldi managed to screw themselves up today.
Audi.
Yes, whatever. The car company. They managed to make themselves look a little bit fucking stupid this week. And of course, the big story is the Berkeley riots, which I know really got under your skin, didn't it, Monkey?
Mm.
I think it got under our skins equally, but you found the Audi thing and found that particularly objectionable from a, I hate to use the words, from a gender-specific standpoint.
Well, yeah, I found it sort of insulting, but I also found it really fucking funny. We should probably actually do the oldie one first. Just let's start on a high note because
I get the
it's going to
feeling
end
we're
on a
leading
bad
into
one.
that anyway, so.
Yes.
Oldie, and I can't play the I can't play the advert that they actually released, but released an advert basically saying that they pay their women less, and it starts off and it's this young girl in a like go-kart race, and her dad's cheering her on, and it's like yay, and the whole advert is done from the father's point of view. And he sat there and he was going, well, what do I tell my daughter? Do I tell her that her grandfather is worth more than her grandmother? Do I tell her that her father is worth more than her mother? Do I tell her that every male she will ever work with will be worth more than she is, just because she's a woman? Or do I tell her something different? And, you know, it's like, yeah, supporting progress is the slogan. It's something along that line anyway. And, you know, I found it funny as fuck, but I also find it really insulting. You
It's
know,
kind of a talking down to you sort of way.
Yeah. And then they had several tweets along this line. This is just the first one that I came to, where we have someone by the name of Prepper Frog tweets at Aldi, you pay your female employees less than males. You know that's against the law, right? And Audi responds with, when we account for all the various factors that go into pay, women at Audi are on par with their male counterparts. So they just completely destroyed their whole wage gap fucking argument in the advert just with a
Right,
single sentence.
So they were basically trying to ride the current wave of social busybody indignation.
Yeah, you know, it's like, oh shit, people are complaining about a wage gap and men earning more than women, and when we account for all the when we account for the averages without looking at any of the variables, that's true in our company as well. Well, shit. You know, it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, go and do your research. Go and actually break it down into job specific, you know, hours worked, years there, pay rises. You know, when account for all of these things, and you will find that the gender quote wage gap is non-existent. It doesn't exist. You know, it's accounted for. It's an earnings gap, not a wage gap. You know,
See,
men
no,
make different choices to women. Men go into higher paid jobs than women. Men go into, they work longer hours, they take less holidays, you know, all these kinds of things. And yeah, when you account for all of that, there isn't a wage gap, it's an earnings gap.
see, those of you who know the arrangement around cats broadcasts of various sorts, you might be surprised to hear this, but I was actually something of a last minute addition to this. I was like, no, I'm not involving myself in this business. I'm going to say my piece, then I'm going to fuck off.
Yeah.
But then I realized there was only going to be the two of you here, and 2 people is a conversation. 3 people is a conversation with interjections. And I like those.
You're good at interjecting.
Well, I don't know. I seem to have been carrying most of one side of the conversation so far, but that's neither here nor there. I'm here as the uninformed observer. Because
of the 3 of us, you're the one that sort of doesn't really go into.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about it, generally speaking. When I hear about it, it makes me upset and angry, and I feel confused and lost and at sea in a world that has taught me one set of ethical standards and then said, but actually you're an asshole.
Yeah.
You know, so
just going on the whole wage gap thing, I think that there are a few cases where people have been paid less than their counterparts, but I think that's more of a case of problems such as nepotism and favoritism, where it's friends and family members being paid more and involved that way, or people being disliked. And there is the Equal Pay Act, which of course, in, well, pretty much all Western countries.
Yeah, I mean,
well, it is debatable whether any actions can be proven to be, like, any pay discrepancies can be put down to, the word escapes me now.
Circumstance,
experience, or whether it is a discrimination of some kind, whether it's against the person for various reasons. So, and whether that is actionable or provable is up for debate, and whether it is feasible for people to claim that. But in majority of the cases, if you look at the wage gap figures, and as you said, it's more of an earnings gap.
Yeah.
It's not that cases don't exist, it's just that they're the vast minority.
Obviously there's cases that exist of, you know, a man being paid more than a woman, or a woman being paid more than a man. You know, there are cases for that. But to say that it's systemic and institutionalized sexism because it goes right across the board is completely false. You know, it's
Was
utter bullshit.
to break in again, to steal the spotlight from Monkey once more. Audi are what, a Swedish company?
German.
German.
Oh, almost as good. So here's how I look at it.
Better beer,
It's
shittier chocolate.
I thought you were trying to avoid being lynched by your college associates. But yes, so here's how I look at it. Swedes, or even Germans, because it applies almost equally from my limited perspective. You can look at this from two perspectives, right? Either it's the company desperately trying to cover their own arse, having seen the figures and not really taken their time over it, or riding the popular crest of indignation, or just generally trying to put a good face on their own future, or it's a cynical, oh yes, but we're not like those others. It's like the cynic in me wants to say that they're trying to have their cake and eat it. In the, on the one hand, they're saying, oh well, these women aren't earning as much. Let's spin it so that, you know, we're working on that, we're doing something about that. At the same time, when actual legal speak comes up, their immediate retort is, oh well, actually, when you take into account all the other factors that surround the situation, it really isn't a thing.
It's more of it's an empty placation on Audi's part.
Yeah. Although when we actually sort of, let's talk about the legal aspects of it, and that there are companies out there, and for the love of God, I can't remember the name of one of them. There's a Swedish company. I said I can't remember the name of it, but it's actually implementing something like a 12% pay rise to all of its women to account for the gender pay gap. So what are your opinions on that?
Right, so that's tantamount to deliberately working the men harder, basically, isn't it?
Oh, well, women earn less than men, so pay the women more. Let's close the gap. And
right,
you know,
so
that's not how it works. You know, anyone with half a brain cell and 20 minutes of internet time can find out why the pay gap doesn't exist, why it's an earnings gap. You know?
Oh, yeah, but at the same time, that's well and good, but parity doesn't necessarily equal fairness.
No.
I mean, to look at it in a fairly broad and crass sort of manner, if we were to take the whole war of the sexes thing as a literal thing, if you were to take it and take business as the analogy, then the menfolk on the one side would have a slightly smaller pool of soldiers who take longer guard shifts, suffer greater combat fatigue, are on campaign longer, and tend not to go home as much. Whereas the women, apparently with this new initiative to compensate, will have subsidized tactical nuclear strikes. And I'd hardly call that a fair war. It doesn't translate into a fair workplace environment either.
No.
Because that 12% extra pay to the women, that ensures an equal pay packet at the end of the year, it's not the same money. It's not the same krona or euro per measurement of effort, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's my uninformed, unresearched perspective.
Yeah, you should really do more of those sort of
Playing
speeches, Gav. You could
Pardon?
you could sign off with that.
What? That's just my unresearched perspective. And that's my sign out from here on out.
Yeah.
Well, it would generally speaking be true, because I've never been what you'd call your actual intellectual. Tend to hear things that upset me, and sometimes I'll feel myself to be sufficiently informed by osmosis to form an opinion. So, you know, I'm I'm a little bit of a pub landlord sort of philosophizer. A little bit Al Murray, but I hope with less racism.
Yeah, well, that's all a part of his character. He's meant to be a bit racist.
And very sexist. Wow, I'm not making a good case for myself here. But no, from what you've said, I do kind of see how the Audi advert could be seen as insulting, really dishonest, and when it comes down to it, ultimately either a marketing tool, a pandering move.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely pandering. It definitely panders to the whole fucking SJW feminist movement. Women are fucking, you know, women are oppressed. Women aren't fucking paid as much as men, etc., etc.
I think what we've got here is a case of very deeply historical factors read where they no longer apply, basically.
Yeah.
So yes,
Sorry,
Audi.
I got I got a thing on an all-women's workplace, and I'm just trying to find it again. Right, hold on.
You can tell she organises her materials before she begins these things.
Well, because a couple of things had to be dropped, and I found a couple of things afterwards.
I'm just giving you a hard time, Katie. Nobody can expect a woman to be as prepared for this kind of thing as any man would be.
Yeah, because you got all the stuff sorted, didn't you?
Well,
yeah, Jessica Chastain launches all-female production company. Now this is the Telegraph. No, it's New York Times. Sorry. In case you need more reasons to love Jessica Chastain, the award-winning actress has now launched her own production company, Freckle Films, which she will run along with development executives Eliza Siegel. The company has partnered with Trudy Styler and Celine Ratte of Maven Pictures, and this all-female executive team announces that they have already bought the film rights to 2 novels by and featuring women. The Magician's Lie by Greer McAllister tells the story of a famed female illusionist who is forced to prove her innocence after a dead man is found among her stage props. While Life and Other Near-Death Experiences by Libby Miller follows the trials and tribulations of a young woman who finds out her husband is gay and she has cancer on the same day. So what do you think of that? What do you think of
things happen on one day?
That is, but no, it's like not necessarily the rights to the books that they've bought, but the whole female only production company.
Oh.
What's your ideas on that? I mean, I've only read a little under a full paragraph of the article. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I'll let Monkey field this, seeing as
Right.
he seemed to be the first off the bat.
First off the bat with a snarky comment. Okay. To be honest, it's their company. I'm of the opinion they can hire or not hire who they want, and they sink or swim on the basis of what they do. If they actually do well with those films, fair play to them, I guess. I mean, you could question the fact that
So
they are hiring. They have got a
yeah, they're only hiring women.
discriminative policy when it comes to hiring.
And what would your opinion be if, or what do you think the opinion would be if it was men only hiring men in this company? Say, for instance, you set one up, Monkey, and you were like, right, I'm only going to hire men because reasons. And yeah, I'm working with this person and that person, and they're all men. What do you think the reaction would be to that?
I mean, for me, it'd be pretty much the same. If it was me looking in, it'd be pretty much the same reaction as the other way
but
around.
I mean,
but yeah,
sort of in general.
Oh, if you were going for like mainstream public opinion, it'd probably be seen as the worst thing since Hitler, which is, to be honest, a lot of things nowadays that are apparently the worst thing since Hitler, or literally Hitler.
Yeah, literally Hitler. We have literal Nazis now.
Yeah,
people are literally Nazis. Fucking morons. We'll get onto that a bit later when we talk about Berkeley.
Oh dear, do I have to approach this all-female production company now?
I did sort of say I want you to take lumps. Yeah, we all got to take our lumps.
Okay. I think in concept it is essentially sexist by its very nature, but without any judgment applied on that. Okay, because it's a movie production house, and as Monkey says, they have the inherent right to hire whomever they feel best fits the nature of the movies and projects that they intend to produce. If their manifesto happens to include an exclusionary girls only club policy, then on principle I would be highly insulted by the very concept. But in practice, I have every faith that market forces will prove the program's worth purely on its own. That's what I have to say about that.
I have the feeling there will probably be 16 articles, all roughly saying the same thing about how this all-female production company is making waves in the Hollywood scene.
Yeah.
They'll make waves, absolutely, as they thrash around looking for support.
Yeah, I mean,
it'll be the same. It'll be the same waves a drowning person makes as they try to reach the life preserver.
Yeah, you have, and a lot of these seem to be theatre companies, but Theatre Rush is an all-female theatre company. Smooth Faced Gentleman is an all-female Shakespeare company. You know, it's like it's all female. You know, there's a lot of these are you know, only women allowed, only women in this place.
Yeah, you'd never get that for the Royal Shakespeare Society, would you? Because that's a national institution, despite the fact that all of Shakespeare's plays and all the various other playwrights he supposedly either cribbed off of, or he never actually wrote those plays at all. They were written by other people. Those companies were historically all men.
Yes.
Until comparatively recently, by tradition more than anything else, which in itself may or may not have been inherently sexist. But when it's a project, okay, there's a line between forming a team for a project and forming a team for an agenda.
Yes, you know, and
That's
I think a lot of these companies, because there's a couple of yeah, there's a couple of office work kind of things. There's an accounting company and stuff like that that's all female as well. And I think, you know, things like that, they're all done as agenda. You know, it's we're being fair. We're, you know, look at us guys, we're doing it for the women. Look at you, we're being progressive because we've cut all men out. You know, and yeah, I really feel that, you know, a lot of this is
well,
based on the agenda rather than
the
actually
project.
based on the project. Yeah.
Well, to that, I have only two words for you, and any ladies who may be involved in such a venture, with no malice and no judgment attached, only two words for you: Sheila's wheels.
No, Sheila's wheels made me laugh because it was actually I think it was like 2 or 3 years after they got, you know, quite popular and quite big. They were actually sued for being sexist
Yes,
against men, and
yes,
the
they
men
were.
actually won. So Sheila's Wheels actually had to start bringing men and covering men in their
There was that
insurance
whole thing
policies.
as well with the insurance industries, but I think it was isolated to just the UK, where everybody there was that whole court case about charging men and women different rates purely for car insurance, purely on the basis of their gender, and
Yeah,
the courts found that yes, this was discrimination, as women at the time women were paying significantly less for car insurance than men, which this was just before I started driving, so this was back
You
at the
dodged the bullet there, then.
time. Well, no, this was no, it didn't really affect me either way, because at the time, young teenage guys were paying like twice the premium as
Hmm.
girls of the same
yeah,
age with the same experience for
Well,
driving, and it was just this whole idea of a boy racer, and so this whole thing went through the courts, and lo and behold, it came out as sexism, and the insurance companies were like, "Yes, this is great. Now we get to charge the women just as much as we got to charge the men."
yeah, I'll bet they didn't drop your premiums any. They just
Oh, no,
raised the women's to
that's right.
reach you, match you. Yeah, that
Oh,
sounds
no.
about that. That sounds like an insurance company. But that's the thing of it, you know. Sheila's wheels. As soon as you take the discriminatory aspect out of the venture, it suddenly doesn't even have the ideological legs it had to begin with.
yeah. I mean, because that was like the major draw, wasn't it? It was like, oh yeah, we're charging, yeah, we're only covering women, and we're charging women like lower rates than any other company because women, you know. And
Okay,
then
but to play devil's advocate, there was a genuine statistical and demographical, easily identifiable trend for young gentlemen who had recently acquired motor vehicles to get horribly pissed and wrap them around trees 2 or 3 times more often than young ladies.
yeah, I mean, you know, it was, you know, there was some statistics to back it up,
Yeah,
but
there
you know,
was an economic basis behind the idea. It wasn't pure sexism, at least not when you look at the numbers that may or may not have been coincidental.
I still think that, you know, I think that was kind of slightly before the massive takeoff of, you know, the sort of sexism everywhere mentality, you know. So I think they were, yeah, they were right on that beginning edge though. unless I was too
They,
fucking young to see it, because I'm not exactly old myself.
well, third wave feminism and disproportionate advocacy and affirmative action for various interest groups was bubbling under the surface at the time. But I'm probably the most senior of the group here, and I remember I remember a time of relative calm in the very late 90s and the early aughts, where we pretty well figured we had racism and sexism beaten, at least here in the United Kingdom. We really believed that sexism was broken in the 30s and 40s and put down for good in the 60s and 70s. And then there was a painful process through the 80s and the early 90s of finally bedding in the necessary psychological, social, and infrastructural changes necessary to complete the transition. And by the early aughts, we really thought we had it sorted. And then suddenly no fucker had any money in 2008, and people started yelling again. So I have to question whether it's not so much a cultural shift as it is just the sort of tumult you tend to see in any recession or immediately after. I mean, you look at it with the car insurance thing, it started as an economic thing. It's like, oh, well, women are less likely to drive their cars into trees while pissed off their faces on some cheap Lamborghini. Is Lamborghini a drink? Drinking a Lamborghini and driving a Lamborghini. A Lamborghini. You can tell I'm on the whiskey. But that it started in the financial arena, where one could eke out a certain advantage by selecting an exclusionary car insurance dealer.
Yeah.
And that's where I really first saw it coming back, because the second wave feminists, by and large, were looking at the scenario, at least so far as I could see, and saying, you know what, there's some tweaking to be done maybe, but by and large, I think we've got it won. And
yeah, it did. But then, you know, these things come in waves, and does anyone else fear what the hell fourth wave feminism is going to look like?
Or no, because there won't be any minorities left to claim by that point.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're fucking pedophiles. Really? Serious?
You don't have the paperwork and the tweets to link to on that one, so you could probably leave off the normalization of pedophilia, at least until you can find some material.
I can find material pretty fucking quick. I really can find material for it really fast.
But can we at least agree that through the early aughts we were pretty much there, or so we thought, and then money dried up and people found economic advantage in being exclusionary and cliquey, and then the law tried to even it out, and then it just went right back to its grassroots college campus nonsense and found new causes now that it had a taste for blood.
So this is the same sort of thing I was...
How scary is this, guys? I just typed in minor ATT into Google. Now, it finished my sentence for me and popped up with minor attracted person. I haven't looked it up. I haven't looked it up myself. You know, the things that I have found on minor attracted people has been, you know, things that were sent to me or things that I'd found on my Twitter feed, like articles and stuff like that.
Because God knows you don't want that stuff on your search history.
Yeah. You know, and yeah, it fucking, and you know, it came up itself. Now I've got Twitter, Tumblr, Twitter, Reddit, WND. What is WND? Let's see what this is.
Here we are displaying our ignorance. But Monkey, you had a point before Kat came back from her search.
Yeah, it was. See, throughout the entirety of me growing up, I was sort of under the impression that, as you were saying, we dealt with racism, we've dealt with sexism. It was a pretty good place to be, where everyone was pretty much accepting of everyone. Everyone was happy with the situation, and then it sort of like I didn't really notice any difference, and then suddenly a few years back, it sort of blindsided me. I was like, oh, what's going on now? And you just get you'd start hearing stupid things just coming up, and you're like, oh, okay. And then you'd be on the internet and you'd see something, and then you gradually sort of look at it, and it starts unfurling as this clusterfuck of people getting aggressive at each other over problems that everyone thought was gone. Oh God!
I've just linked this article in.
You can see the URL of that, and I can already see that that's not something I want to think about.
Add to your search history.
And it's even more depressing considering it's got the year 2014 in it.
Yeah.
So this has been something
Back
that's been
before you knew it was there.
It's been brewing for God knows how long, and it started to appear in the shitty discourse now, and it's
Well, I found.
We also have Di in the chat here.
Oh, hello, Di. I'm sorry, I can't see you. I'm not watching the stream on account of I don't want to have massive vocal feedback.
Oh no, there's this
mute
amazing button that you can press called the mute button. Play the sound from the stream. Funny that. It's this magical invention.
I'm going to read this article out.
Mm-hmm.
I will, once my computer stops being a jackass.
Is this where I finally use the will to live?
So this is WND.com, and the title is Pedophilia, the Next Sexual Rights Revolution.
Ugh.
The underlying assumption that has led to the increased legitimization of same-sex marriage, a growing effort in academic circles to mainstream pedophilia. So psychologists are beginning to walk down the same path LGBT activists established more than 50 years ago. Pedophilia is an inborn sexual orientation, not a learned sexual behavior. So that's the introduction to this article, guys. What's your take on the introduction alone?
Well, again, my uninformed, unresearched opinion is that's a load of cobblers. Simply on the basis that here I'm going to make an appeal to biology. There are, in fact, recognized and researched reasons for the existence of homosexuals, just to take the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
there's a good reason to have those quirks of reproductive behavior show up in the gene pool in every however many people it is, let's say 100. There's a good reason for that, because that person is then freed up as a resource provider, and they form extra family links within the tribe. I mean, in India, for the longest time, there was a very great tradition of reverence for and codifying homosexuality in a non-destructive, productive, socially functional manner. Now, where predation on children in a sexual manner is in any way beneficial to anyone, I will never be able to understand. That's more knee-jerk than researched opinion, though. Again, I must keep repeating that.
Yeah. But you know, it's like this kind of thing. It's being normalized, and it's being normalized in media, is in news articles. You know, it's like, what the fuck? Yeah, okay, I'm being knee jerk myself here, and I'm being like, oh my god, this is fucking terrible. But yeah, what the fuck? You know, it's like I was sexually abused, and you know, to understand sex, and I was old enough to actually have sexually awake enough to sort of know how it works, and you know, actually be interested in it. But they're actually talking about, you know, that there was a YouTube video called the virtuous pedophile, the virtue file. You know, and when you're like taking these kinds of things, and he was like, oh yeah, well, I'm attracted to in the ages of 16, and my attraction kind of peaks at the age of 9. Is
Oh yeah, exactly.
no.
Ugh. It's that fucking Patty and Selma's feet. Ugh. It's that Sideshow Bob. Ugh. Because you know, we have these strictures and taboos in place in our society for a good reason. Even the outmoded ones, the ones that are no longer relevant or helpful, they had a good reason once upon a time. I mean, incest, for instance, right? You throw that one out there as an example. There's a damn fine reason you don't keep it that close in the family. You know,
I mean,
second cousins,
have you not
fair
watched?
enough. But
have you not watched Game of Thrones? I mean, look at bloody Joffrey. You don't want more of him, right?
yeah, exactly. We don't need another Joffrey Baratheon.
No.
Yeah, so I'm going to continue reading this article.
Oh, please, no.
If people are born with sexual attraction to minors, the argument goes that orientation should be accepted as normative and not stigmatized. Cantor, PhD, a clinical psychologist for the Law and Mental Health Program of the Center for Addiction and Mental Health and Teaching Hospital in Canada, and an assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Toronto, is regarded internationally as a leading sexologist studying pedophilia. His research concludes pedophiles share distinct characteristics of brain wiring. Some 1 to 5% of all men are predisposed to be primarily sexually attracted to children.
Okay, if we're to be denied the argument that it's a learned behavior and that it's effectively a mental illness, then we have to fall back on, well, then it's a fucking mental defect. Because there's no good reason for it. And I'll say a lot of things in support of various inverted commas deviancies. For instance, homosexuality is useful. Transsexualism isn't a thing anyone can help and should be accepted because it harms nobody. You know, all these layers of well, that's fine then. But when you get to normalizing pedophilia, you're effectively accepting and tacitly, I don't want to say encouraging, but you know where I'm going with that. You're tacitly giving the okay to and unambiguous rape.
Yeah, you know, it's
quite apart from the age element. It's just, it will always be rape.
Yeah, I mean, what child can truly understand what's going on, can truly consent? you know, I don't know any children. Yeah, these topics really do require whiskey to get through.
Yes.
You know, it's like, what child can really fucking agree and sort of go, yeah, I know precisely what, you know, sex is. I completely understand it. I am emotionally mature enough to in it and actually consent.
See, that's what you have at a legal age of consent.
Yeah,
But that's-
You have a
exactly.
legal age to vote. That's why you have a legal age to drive, a legal age to drink, a legal age to smoke, a legal age to gamble. It's because the idea is that by that point of your life, you will have accrued enough experience and knowledge
And enough
to make an
emotion.
informed decision about what you do with yourself.
Or even that your brain is sufficiently developed to be able to accrue that kind of knowledge, experience, and clarity of understanding.
Exactly.
It's not so much the experience itself as it is the inherent capacity to understand and to be informed and to be prepared. And I'm sorry, but once you get south of a certain age, you just can't be.
Yeah, they're not emotionally developed enough, and they're certainly not, you know, they don't have the understandings, you know, even someone 16, you know, because UK laws, you can have sex at the age of 16. At the age of 16, you're mature enough to sort of decide whether or not you want sex. You know,
not necessarily whether it would be the best idea.
If it's the best idea, but you know, you're usually emotionally secure enough to actually be able to go, so I can weigh up the cons and I will accept. Or, you know, at the age of 9, you don't have that, you know, have that.
So I think basically what we're saying here is the gavel comes down as a resounding no on all that.
Yeah,
the depressing thing is the line peaks, or the word peaks. Like this is some sort of bell curve.
At the age of 9. Yeah, peaks at the age of 9. I mean, what I will do is I will hunt up the video, The Virtuous Pedophile. Just that title fucking, oh my, how can you pair the virtuous and pedophile?
Non-practicing paedophile? That would be a virtuous paedophile.
One that has
virtuous paedophile would be
to
one
actually
that
get help for their situation.
But a virtuous,
pedophile, they can't help it, but as long as they don't act on it and get help, it should be fine.
Okay, I'm going to actually.
I'm sorry, guys, but a virtuous paedophile would have got himself chemically castrated.
Well, that's one way of dealing with it, certainly.
Is it?
I'm going to throw out a slightly controversial limb here and reach for the classics. Who here has even passingly, out of morbid curiosity, read a chapter or two of Lolita?
No.
No?
No.
No. Okay.
Backpedal, Gav, backpedal.
No, I'm not backpedaling anywhere. I'm going precisely where I wanted to go. Precisely. You've not read any of it. Now, I came across a copy of it while I was doing some volunteer work. And out of morbid curiosity, because, you know, you hear about it, you hear that this is the topic, and something at the back of your mind says, well, what the fuck, you know? What's going on here? So I opened it up and I read it, and it really gets into a very fascinating place where you've got an unreliable, what's the word? Help. The person who reads things to you. Narrator. Yeah, you've got an unreliable narrator explaining his own neuroses through the story of this this love affair, as he would term it. And it also explains how he came to be attracted to nymphets, as he terms them, in the first place. And it's born out of a place of trauma. And I have to wonder, the campaign tendency, investigation into the psychology and normalization, if we're going to fucking even touch on that madness of pedophilia, is maybe based on that kind of sympathy for the sufferer of a mental illness. But I mean, come on, we still like lock up or electrocute serial killers, even if they just have this uncontrollable compulsion to kill.
Oh no,
you know.
Sorry, Di just posted up your assumption, Kat, that pedophiles are all male is offensive. Actually, no. Assume that all pedophiles are male. I know full well that there are female pedophiles out there. I was reading refers to men, as refers to pedophiles as men, and the video that I was watching is about a man that is a pedophile. So that's that's the information that I have provided, and that's the information that I was speaking about. But I know full well pedophiles are not all male.
But again, that's the preconception that we have, which, you know, you got the dirty old man in the Mac,
I know
who hangs around school playgrounds, you know. And
going on the topic of schools, though, you've got the creepy old guy teacher that's perving on the girls at school, and then you've got stories where you've got a female teacher that slept with multiple students in her class and has been let off after stories of how she was seduced and how they were the ones.
Oh no! Have you read the have you read the comments section in those articles where women have slept with female students?
No.
The male students, right?
Mm.
Is full of things like, yeah, I bet he enjoyed it. Yeah, that yeah, that's great. That would have been my dream when I was his age. I bet he's high-fiving his mates after that.
yeah, but at the age of 14 or 15 or 16, the combination of a woman in authority over you, plus the shame and the confusion, would surely be a damaging thing. It would be well and good if it was, you know, a quick fumble behind the bike sheds with a girl your own age where you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you're both figuring it out. And sex ed is shit, by the way.
Sex ed really is shit, yeah.
But it's a very different thing when you've got an element of authority involved. And, well, you know, what exactly happened there? Have I earned my stripes? Oh my God, I've got to see her again next week at the same time. You know,
the thing is the double standard of it, though. You know, you think about, you know, all the comments are going, hey, I would be high-fiving my mates. That's a fucking boy's dream. Blah, 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 blah. Now think about all the comments that a man would have if he had had sexual relations with a male or a female student.
yeah, either way,
it's fucking disgusting.
Well, that's because because men are seen as the pursuers and women are seen as the choosers.
Yeah, but no, I know that's how things are perceived, but I cannot agree with it. I'm sorry, but whether they are male or female, they are fucking pedophiles. They should be chemically fucking castrated.
I wasn't arguing for understanding or leniency.
They should be fucking locked up.
Yeah, well, that was my point from the beginning of this segment of our discussion, was that, you know, if it were a like if there were other crimes, such as, you know, people with uncontrollable rage, psychological conditions that led them to torture and mutilate small animals, etc. These are the kinds of people that we would have at the very least in a padded cell for 20 years with psychological help. And it's no less heinous of a crime. Not in the slightest, regardless of gender. That was my ultimate point that I think I rather drifted from in the ensuing, conversational mutation, I guess. Is like, each sentence is the child of the previous, and each will be slightly different in context and content. But that was what I was driving at, is that whether you read it as a genetic difference, a chemical imbalance in the brain due to some fuck-uppery at birth or afterwards, a learned behavior such as a phobia or a compulsion, however you look at it, these are the kinds of people that in any other circumstance, we would not be in any way advocating an acceptance of them in wider society.
Yeah. It's like there's a reason why these people are absolutely vilified in prisons. That there's a reason.
Even
for
among
it.
the scum.
The worst of the any of our societies can muster. They are vilified. They are absolutely fucking hated.
Well, that's because, and I don't speak from extensive personal experience here, but I can, to a small degree, say that criminals justify themselves by what they're not prepared to do. I'm a burglar, but I don't hurt people. I'm a mugger, but I won't mutilate a person in the course of it. I'm a bank robber, but I've never shot at anyone. That you always hear that secondary justifying virtue tacked on the end, and the absolute bottom of the barrel is, well, at least I'm not a rapist of small children.
Yeah, I mean, I once watched a program about serial killers and like the very worst of the worst serial killers and hunting them down and trying to find, some of the fucking worst. And they had a sociopathic, psychotic serial killer.
We're talking the Bundys of the world here, right?
Yeah. This guy, his code name was 13. Because initially he wouldn't work with them, and he only agreed to work with them when the guy handed over the case file and said he's molested 6 children. And the guy went, I really hope you put him in here with me. And this is a guy that had he was a serial murderer, butchered, like actually fucking cut up into little pieces, something like 24 people.
Oh, geez.
And his reaction to it was, I really hope you put him in here in this prison with me. So,
there's a kind of a Rorschach moment there. You're not.
Yeah.
I'm not locked in here with you.
Yeah, and it's like, so when you've got the very worst of the worst fucking turning around and going, these people are fucking awful, and then you've got this fucking psychologist here going, we should not. No, I'm sorry, and this is going to be my absolutely terrible knee-jerk reaction, but fuck you. If you're going to fucking say shit like that, maybe you should be the one that's locked up with them, because you're fucking enabling it.
We do have a trend towards enabling, though, which started in a very benign and well-meaning and egalitarian ideal to accept people as they are. Good place, but where do you draw the line? And I think we've rather crossed the line that should have been drawn.
Yeah, when we have things like BTP trending on Twitter and people are like, this is really good.
Wait, where did Q go to?
BTQP then. I'm not going to list out all their fucking lettering.
I'm sorry. I thought the terminology had changed yet again. But no, the P is the line.
Yeah, the P stands for fucking paedophile. And, you know, when we have shit like that trending on Twitter, and there is 200 people, however the fuck many was fucking commenting on it, going, yeah, this is good. Aggressive we are. No, fuck you guys. Fuck all of you guys for enabling and making this a fucking thing.
At the least, these people need psychological help.
Yeah. And then
the kindest, we should isolate them and offer them psychiatric assistance if it's a learned behaviour.
Yeah,
which it may or may not be.
This article that I'm reading, I mean, I'm going to carry on reading it.
Do we have to?
Only a little bit further.
Okay, let's round out this article and then move on to our next serious point, because we've driven this one so far into the ground. I believe we've hit coal.
I believe we've hit Australia.
But yeah, it's like yeah, I said about the brain wiring bit, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Right. In a New York Times report on Canton's work, December 22nd, reporter Laura Kane noted pedophilia has been widely viewed as a psychological disorder triggered by early childhood trauma. You know, what a lot of people agree, and I have a an abstract for a review on some research that coincides with it. You know, it happens. You know, it's carried on with. You know, when someone abuses a child, they'll you know, it will be something that stays with that child, and that child is more likely to abuse other people. You know, other children.
The old bully complex.
Yeah. However, many experts now, she wrote, see it as a biologically rooted condition that does not change, like a sexual orientation, thanks largely to a decade of research by Dr. James Cantor at the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. So this James Cantor is basically the person which is changing people's ideas on pedophilia. He's the one doing the research into pedophilia that's normalizing it, that people are quoting to make it normal. It's his research. Now, I want to know more about this person, and I'm probably going to research more about him. I will put things that I find up on Twitter.
Please do. None of the rest of us are going to fucking research this guy. I can guarantee you that much.
And the alcohol while you're at it, you're probably going to need it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm gonna fucking need it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm actually gonna look more into this guy and more into his history and shit like that, because let's go. Fuck it. I'm gonna research pedophiles. There's got to be a reason why he chose that as his subject, in my opinion. You know, we all research,
maybe.
we all look at things and we all research things.
That interest us.
Yeah, that interest us, or that has had impact on our lives.
Well, that's a form of interest, even if it's a grudging one.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take a look at this guy, and I will post up some information up onto Twitter about him. So if anyone wants to take a look and see who this guy is, because I'm dubious about him specifically. Like, why is he interested in this?
A healthy dose of cynicism never hurt. Or is it skepticism?
It's possible that he's trying to justify his own behavior. Might be that he was abused as a child himself. You know, there can be a whole myriad of reasons as to why he was interested in studying this.
I wouldn't want to speculate too heavily at this stage.
Yeah, at present, I don't know enough about him to actually say this is the reason why. something about him going into this line of research doesn't sit right with me, so I'm going to look into it further.
Stare ye not into the abyss, at least, should apply here.
Yeah. So yeah, I am going to take a look at him further, and as I said, I will be putting stuff up on Twitter about him. So if anyone is interested in finding out why he went into this, you can follow me on Twitter and find out.
So there it is. I guess that wraps up our opinions of Audi.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so
how did we get from how did we get from Audi to kitty diddling? I really don't know.
I believe it went through Twitter.
Oh, yeah, Twitter and Tumblr.
Yeah.
The twin demons of the social media structure.
I'm having a little bit of an issue with my internet right now. That article, my computer doesn't like that article.
I wonder
My
why.
computer is actively trying to close that article down.
Perhaps you should simply allow it to do so. It might be the kindest thing.
Yeah, I mean, I put the article into the Hangout chat anyway, so I've got access to it.
All right.
So yeah, the next subject, and let's go a little bit more fun, shall we? You know, let's go from kiddie fiddling to something teenagers and older, you know, some older guys actually play. Let's talk about Peter.
I don't play with Peter, but please continue.
No,
if we're talking about playing with Peter, I think you're still on the subject of the last subject. wrong Peter, monkey. Bad. Down. Behave.
But yeah,
we're talking here about PETA, the
Peter, the
Animals'
rights.
Lives Matter, but People's Don't group.
Yes, the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, I believe, is the acronym.
Yes, and why they're sending letters to the CEOs of Games Workshop.
Shall I field the entire entry to this one?
Well, I was going to read it, and
yes, of course, because I sent you the letter itself in its entirety.
Yeah, so there's an article and a letter involved with this one. I'm going to read the article first because that's how I first came across it, and I found it really funny. And then I read it to more and more, sort of raged and ranted, and that was really funny. So, yeah.
I'm glad I provided you some amusement. See, this is going to be second-hand Mort rant, so...
Yeah, it's actually going to be like third-hand Mort rant because he's had another one since then as well. Why is Peter asking Games Workshop to make Warhammer fur-free? Is the name of the article.
So you know it's going to be good right from the off.
Oh yeah, absolutely. From the mighty Leman Russ and Horus Lupercal to Chaos Warriors and the Sisters of Silence, Warhammer features an abundance of characters who wear what appear to be animal pelts, which just doesn't add up. The grimdark battle-hardened warriors are known for their martial prowess, but wearing the skins of dead animals doesn't take any skill. Indeed, nothing on the bloody battlefields of Warhammer's conflict-ravaged universe can match the terrible reality that foxes, minks, rabbits, and other living beings experience at the hands of the fur trade. Those killed for their fur typically endure a bleak life inside a tiny, filthy wire cage before being electrocuted, drowned, or even skinned alive. Or they may be in the wild, minding their own business, when they get caught in a horrific, bone-crushing steel jaw trap, often languishing for days before eventually dying from starvation, dehydration, or blood loss. Peter has written to Games Workshop CEO Kevin Rowntree, asking that the leading British miniature war game brand ban fur garments from all Warhammer characters. While we appreciate that they are fictional, draping them in what looks like a replica of a dead animal sends the message that wearing fur is acceptable, when in fact it has no more place in 2017 than it would in the year 40,000.
I take it that's the end of the letter.
That's the end of the article.
Okay.
There's some formalities before and after. So, to give you all a little...
Yeah, go on.
Carry on.
I just looked at the letter again, and it's pretty much the same thing as what was written in the article.
Right. So, a little history lesson, first and foremost, just for context, because some of you out there may in fact be diehard old school lead minis Warhammer fans who have been keeping up with the developments in both the fantasy brand, which now basically no longer exists, and the much more popular and lucrative Warhammer 40,000 universe, which is a sort of retro sci-fi far future but medieval with magic, but actually it's psionics setting.
It's magic but science.
Okay, so what it is that we've got all these various factions running around, of which we have basically the largest being humanity in Warhammer 40,000. And what they've specifically pointed to most prominently is the Space Marines. Now then, the raised here is that it's simply not becoming of such mighty warriors that they should wear fur, considering that it is in no way a testament to their skill as survivors or warriors. Fur. Now, what really pisses in my cornflakes is that they've gone to the trouble of learning the names of these characters to some degree, even the setting, but they have not internalized in any way the context. The Space Wolves, as mentioned in Lehman Russ, tend to wear, or at least their best veterans, the skin of a Fenrisian thunderwolf that is a 4-meter tall stack of bone, sinew, muscle, teeth, and pure undirected rage wolf that can tear through a small armed division of men alone with nothing but teeth and ferocity. And these Space Marines, bioengineered super soldiers in power armor though they may be, are expected to go out into the depths of the worst winters, armed frequently with a combat knife and often only with their bare hands, to kill said creature and bring back its pelt as a demonstration of their warrior spirit. So yes, actually, yes, it is a sign of their warriors' code and valor. It's a demonstration of their grit, determination, and capability in combat in a dire situation, and they should wear it as a trophy proudly. Why? Because theirs is a brutal universe that demands such things, and signaling it to their brothers strengthens their unity, coherence, and morale. Furthermore, the Chaos Warriors, also mentioned, probably have it even worse because they don't even have Fenrisian Thunderwolves to hunt. What they have are things known as Chaos Spawn, which may once have been human beings long upon a long old time ago, but are actually heavily mutated creatures composed primarily of teeth and magic.
Space magic.
Space magic, exactly. Moving on to the broader appeal to emotion, where nothing on the bloody battlefield of Warhammer 40,000's war-torn world could match the horrific reality that Fox minks, rabbits, and other living beings experience. I would argue differently. You see, there are ravine hordes of giant insectile creatures running around, capable of stripping entire biospheres from lush planets, leaving them nothing but floating dead rock. nukes. Such creatures are frequently responded to by setting off every single nuclear reactor and fusion power plant on the planet simultaneously to crack the crust and turn the core inside out, to deny the alien their resources in the most base way imaginable. And that's only the start. You have the likes of the Necron Flayers, which are basically...
I like Necrons.
basically soulless ancient mummy robots from a time before gods were gods, who will happily pin you down with their prehensile spiky claws, keep you alive with psionic magical voodoo hoodoo, skin you alive, and then wear your flesh in an attempt to return their own mortality. Another faction, known as the Dark Eldar, go even further. Their city in the dark and tumultuous magical webway, which is a tunnel through basically subspace, but we shan't get too deeply into that. And they will then take you as a slave, which has all the necessary slavery connotations. However, these are basically cruel, evil space elves with mind bullets and enormous understanding of biology, to the point where they can flay you alive and bind your soul to the skin. The Chaos likewise do a similar thing to power their war engines, using your soul as a battery of torment. Now, I don't know about you, but to my mind, having your leg caught in a steel jaw trap for a few days and dying of dehydration is a positive joy compared to these various other potential fates. So,
Yeah.
So that, by and large, is how I say that actually it does make sense for these warriors to wear animal skins, because it does demonstrate their capacity as soldiers and warriors and battle brothers. However, despite my law-based objections, the true problem with Peter's letter goes into the 2 points I have on the end of my little list of points. For the fourth point, which is actually the second point, thanks to the way I've structured this, but never mind. This is a cowardly, low, obviously workshopped, and frankly reprehensible and pathetic appeal as a publicity stunt. Because it's fucking Games Workshop. It's a tabletop miniatures game, okay? Nobody seriously aspires to be a space marine. Even if they would, it would be impossible. Who in their right mind, and we are to assume here that Peter believes that you would, will look at these minis and think, yeah, I'm going to go to Yellowstone National Park armed with a flick knife, find a wolf and skin the motherfucker alive so I can strut through the streets of a hive city on my native planet, safe in the knowledge that everyone knows that I am capable and confident to mutilate a live animal. No, I'm sorry, Peter, that doesn't normalize anything. And it certainly doesn't make it fucking an aspiration to young boys who've just bought their first expensive blister pack of Space Wolf Command, okay? Nobody seriously thinks they can be Lehman Russ. Why would they? He's a lunatic. You would have to be a lunatic. So it boils down to the simple fact that they know that Games Workshop are reliably making bank right now. They know they can reach and enrage a large audience, as they clearly fucking have. All in an effort to draw attention to their own cause in a shallow and frankly pathetic ploy to remain relevant in an era wherein nobody wears fur, and if they do, it's an heirloom.
Yeah,
This,
I mean...
Hang on, I'm not yet done. I'm not yet fucking done. I'm still I'm still in full flow.
All right, go on. then.
Finally,
Change this to Gav Rants with friends.
finally, the whole debacle detracts from legitimate efforts to present genuine and unduly cruel treatment of living animals by trivializing them by association to plastic injection molded toys. That's what it boils down to. A cheap publicity ploy which ultimately harms the cause that they are supposedly promoting, which is the ethical treatment of animals, which I think we can all agree is a good thing. They're damaging their own cause by doing this, by not trying to target trappers, you know, people who actually want a tiger skin rug, for instance. But
Well,
instead,
where was Peter when that whole Charlie the Lion thing kicked off?
nowhere, not that I saw. There may have been Peter
I
members
saw-
in the crowd, but
I saw articles from all the major news outlets. Quite a lot of alternative media was talking about it, but I didn't see anything from Peter at the time. Yeah, not from Peter itself, you know.
well, no, because they didn't want to get involved in such a politically charged fucking argument. They only want to go after hapless, defenseless, ineffectual targets to raise their own profile.
Yeah, so, you know, Peter is, I hate to say it because their actual message, what they're meant to stand for, is a really good one. You know,
Absolutely.
you know, it's like what they're meant to stand for is a really good one.
Exactly. The ethical treatment of animals.
Yeah, but they're, you know, that they are neutered. They have neutered themselves by going after publicity rather than going after the shit that actually matters.
Yeah, I would agree. That would be, in fact, my main thrust, but I haven't organised my argument very well. I mean,
You know,
throwing paint at catwalk models like they used to, that's just attention grabbing. It doesn't actually do anything. That's one of 500 coats that the designer had.
Yeah, and not only that, you know, you've made a comment about heirlooms.
Mm.
You know, my nan has all of my great grandmother's fur coats in her loft.
Is this the last Avery to actually have some vestige of the previous fortune?
Yeah, my nan has my great grandmother's fur coats in her loft. They're real fur. They're mink and shit like that, you know. And if
And they're also like 150 years old.
I don't think they're that old. I think they're about 80, 90 years old. But you know, so yeah, if I wanted to, I could turn around to Nan and say, you know, when you're gone, I want the furs. I haven't. You know, it's like I've already got my my inheritance from her, and I'm quite happy with it. But you know, it's like, and that would be an heirloom. That would be, you know, shit that is come down from family member to family member. You know, and you know, it's bullshit that they're sort of sat there and they're going, oh my god, fucking plastic fur. They sent a letter out, and this is another one that I found really funny, is that they sent a letter out to, is it Furrycon?
Oh, the fursuits thing.
Yeah, and they you know, the whole fursuits, and they sent a letter out to like Furrycon. They were like, oh, make sure that nobody is wearing real fur. I was like, I'm pretty sure they're not going to be wearing real fur. You know, it's like these people dress up like fucking foxes. For the most part, they are more animal aware and, you know, more against the fur trade than, you know, say you or I, where, you know, we wouldn't really think about it. They actually source their, you know, their fur in that. and it's all faux fur. And a lot of the time, in like 90% of the cases, they're actually really fucking into animal rights and actually into looking at where their fur is sourced from, whether or not it is synthetic or whether or not it's real.
Well,
And they won't buy from and they won't buy from real sources or anything like that. So for Peter to send them a letter going, make sure it's not real fur, it's just fear mongering, and it's
it demonstrates
laughable.
it demonstrates the same sort of short-sightedness for immediate recognition gains.
It's hyperbole.
It is very much hyperbole.
It's the problem with a lot of modern activism nowadays. I will get onto this later when we get onto Berkeley, where I'm going to have a proper bloody rant.
You're really going to go for that one as well, aren't you, Monkey?
It's the same here. The brief of it is, so much of today's activism relies on hyperbole, and it doesn't work. They don't go for the issues; they go for the over-the-top things. But on the case of Peter here, it's the same thing with video games. There was the case that violent video games promote violence, and that was disproven,
which they clearly don't.
Well, I mean,
yes.
we made that comment in our Doom playthroughs. We were talking about violent video games and the belief that they cause violence in people. If you actually,
and then there was there's the thing with the last few years with the whole shtick of Anita Sarkeesian. You've got the games promoting sexism, and that was thoroughly disproven.
Yeah.
And,
well,
if you actually look at the statistics for violence and violent video games, the more accessible and the more adult video games has become, like more violence being normalized, things like COD and first person shooters and Fallout and all those kinds of things. With the games getting more violent, actually been on the decline. And I'm not saying that there's a causation. I'm just saying that if violence in video games caused violence in people, that trend wouldn't be true.
I mean,
the more accessible,
it's a form of catharsis.
Yeah, I mean, the more accessible and the more violent video games are, if they were right, then that trend would either have stayed the same or it would have increased.
Well, to bring it back around to the Warhammer and Games Workshop angle, that's an even more obtuse connection to be making, because if seeing the glorious warriors of the Emperor running around with a dead wolf over their shoulders influence people to be more cruel to animals and more prone to wear and source real fur, then surely Evil Dead would have turned us all into chainsaw murderers. Surely Frankenstein would have had us all in the garden digging up Tibbles and trying to sew him to the arse end of Rover. It's just entertainment, media, and games have profound effects on us, but they're not immediate one-to-one mirrors. Yeah, it's a much more subtle and involved process than that. And they're treating people like monkey see, monkey do, brainless fucking in-out computers.
You called?
Sorry, monkey. I didn't mean to stereotype your people. I apologize profusely for my microaggression.
I'm well and truly triggered right now.
So's your avatar. Seriously, he's pointing that gun at me with quite a serious and intense doge look. You say, what about my brothers? Hey man, I'm a person of color too. Look, I'm green.
Yeah, but you've got blue hair, so.
That's true, and that's the anime hair color for black, therefore Caucasian.
Well, you see, you've got blue hair Yeah, Mort, you've got blue hair. That means that you're the SJW in this.
Well, what about you, Kat? Of everyone, you must be the most underprivileged. You don't even have a body.
I'm just a mask.
I think if we're going to move on from Games Workshop now, I think
Yes.
the entire Peters thing can be summarized with Skaven Lives Matter.
Skaven Lives Matter.
Hashtag Skaven Lives Matter, guys.
Occupy Skaven Blight. Okay, yeah, no, the big serious nitty gritty big cookie event of the rant is upcoming.
Yeah.
An hour and a half in.
Yeah, an hour and a half in. So we're now on to Berkeley. And I know you've got some serious fucking ranting to do about Berkeley. So let's get the framework for this. So Milo Yiannopoulos was doing his his Dangerous Faggot tour?
I think it was still that tour, yes.
Sounds more like a comedy tour than a series of talks at places of learning.
Yeah, he was doing his Dangerous Faggot tour. Now, many of the students turned up to protest. And I will state this, at the time, they were peaceful. At the beginning, at the beginning of the protest, they were peaceful. Now, there's a little bit of iffy, maybe, on this one. About Antifa, about 150 members of Antifa showing up and starting to get violent. And rather than them being, shut down fast and arrested and sorted out, they actually
as the law
incited
in
the
the
crowd.
US demands, I believe.
Yeah, they actually incited the crowds. And in the end, it ended up with a massive number of people turning extremely violent. And they ended up trashing the several buildings at the college, including the MLK building and the student union.
And a Starbucks.
Sorry. And well, fuck the Starbucks, but the MLK building, that's just beautifully ironic.
It's beautifully ironic. Now, the reason why I bring up Antifa is they posted up on 4chan, or at least an anonymous claiming to be a member of Antifa posted up on 4chan. And
you always know how much you can trust Anon.
Yeah, I'm not saying that this is true. I haven't gone and researched it and gone, yes, it's true, or it's not true. But I do have a thing to read out based on that post, and it is that post that I'm going to be reading out, which I actually think is fucking brilliant. Now, if I can actually get it to open, it'd be really fucking nice. I saved certain things to read out. So this is an anonymous post on 4chan. You really fucked us /poll. We organized this event like we've done a million fucking times before. We followed the formula that we've used in Europe and the US for years, i.e. show up, fuck up fascist faces, break some random shit, watch the right-wing tears. But this time it's different and it's your fucking fault. We didn't get slaps on the wrist. We didn't get lost in the crowd. We got fucking rounded up and arrested. Now, some of us, like yours truly, got bailed out by our backers. But we have court dates and 10 fucking years in jail for hundreds of us. This is fucking insane. It's not fair. It's not fucking fair. We're not fascists like you fucks. We're the good guys. You have no idea how much this is hurting us. A fuck ton of a fuck ton of our young members are just checking out because guess fucking what? They don't want to go to jail. Fuck you, Paul. Fuck you. So as I said, I can't say whether or not that's if that's legitimate. I can't say whether or not that's it is a genuine post on 4chan. I will state that.
As much as anything posted on 4chan can be genuine.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's an anon.
It's an
anon.
It's an anon. So and it has the Antifa logo and stuff like that. But as I said, I can't say how genuine it actually is in regards to Berkeley, and whether or not they're actually speaking truth about being rounded up and arrested. I know there were arrests at Berkeley, and that's about it.
What you mean?
So
that people were arrested as an event where the riots outside involved property damage, arson, vandalism, and assault.
Yeah,
I know. It's fucking amazing, isn't it? I'm stunned to my core. If this post does genuinely come from a butthurt Antifa member, it shows astronomical levels of not self-awareness, anything but self-awareness.
Yeah, but I figured you would at least be interested in that as well, Monkey.
Oh, if it's
true, I know
it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, if it's true, and it's 4chan, so you kind of have to take everything posted up there with a grain of salt.
If it is done, if it is true, well done /Paul.
Yeah, and I would quite like to know what Paul done to raise their ire, if I'm honest.
I've no idea, but
that's how Paul raises his ire with everything. It pulls.
Paul.
That's what Paul does.
It's not quite B, but sometimes it looks like it.
So these riots.
So yeah, you wanted to say, didn't you?
This is. It's like the culmination. Like, I want to say it's the peak, but I've got a horrible feeling in the next week or so I'm going to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
Of this growing trend especially on the left, of it's like they want to be living in the 1930s under German occupation to give themselves the justification to live this grand story of this sort of uprising. It's quite funny considering the past few years that conservatives have been mocked for wanting to live in the 1950s. Now we've got a load of people wishing to be under Nazi occupation so they could rise up against their oppressors.
It's like they really want to be under Nazi occupation so that they can genuinely punch Nazis.
Yeah, and it's hyperbole. It's this grand exaggeration to end all exaggerations, where you've now seriously got articles on the internet, on legitimate outlets, well, mainstream media outlets.
I was going to say, well, what do you actually count as legitimate outlets?
What can you count anymore? But say, acting as if there's this huge Nazi presence, like there's this huge Nazi uprising, that forgetting that for like the last 80 years since the fucking World War II ended, neo-Nazis have been nothing but a bunch of loony fucking skinheads with stupid tattoos getting together for weekly meetings and having
a nice cup of tea.
And then and where you've got a place where there is legitimately a place on the internet where they express their opinions in fucking Stormfront, where it's just a load of bollocks. And yet you have people like Milo Yiannopoulos, who's the gay Jew with the penchant for a black dick.
The big black cock, big black dick.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
as a fascist and an art.
I'm sorry, but I wasn't aware that the Nazis were accepting gay Jews now.
I know.
Gay
Nazis-
Jews who
the
like to be
Nazis
buggered
have
by
come-
black men.
Yeah, I mean,
They've come a long way.
Yeah, the Nazis have come a long way in diversity, haven't they? Do you think they have? Do you think they have?
PR councils.
I don't know about you, but I would think
it's
The Stormfront
diversity.
Safety Council.
No, it's like what is it? It's the diversity and inclusion meetings. Do you think, where you learn how to be inclusive?
Oh, you mean like the
Sensitivity
sensitivity training?
Yeah, sensitivity.
Yeah, like the sensitivity training. Do you think Nazis have them now?
It would be hilarious if they did.
We have Di in the chat. She said, if you protest and riot, you will be prosecuted. That's usually how it works, but then this is California.
Yeah, apparently California is the loony state that nobody wants to really acknowledge anymore.
But you've got this whole thing where, okay, there were some people, you have to acknowledge them, otherwise people go, not all the protesters were violent. It was a small minority. Yes, some people were early on were protesting Milo's talk there.
Yeah.
Compared to the university, they had a lot of pressure, and I think they did have some responses to it. One of the best actual responses to the entire thing I saw was Philip DeFranco's breakdown of it, where it was fair to both sides. There was a lot of hyperbole on both sides of it, which muddies the waters spectacularly and pisses me the fuck off.
Yeah,
so, well, I mean, we must also be careful that in taking up a position against the radical left, we should not fall prey to consuming blindly the genuine propaganda and hyperbole of the extreme right.
Oh yeah. Well, it's the propaganda and extreme hyperbole of people who want to profit off of the situation, whether that's with nefarious or benign means. People usually want to get something out of a situation. That's why they, engage.
Risk aversion and acquisitiveness.
I mean, we can look at this as divorced from it. We're not in America. None of us are in America. We can be completely divorced from the actual situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are people there though who have got multiple stitches and their fucking business burnt down by rioting teenagers.
I saw a video today. It was Stefan Molyneux. I don't usually watch any of his stuff, but he had this. He had one of the people who were at the protests who were going to see Milo's speech there, and she was talking about her experience and about inactivity of the cops there, and basically they barricaded themselves
they were told
in the
after they made the initial arrests, because they made several arrests right at the beginning, but about halfway through, well, not even halfway through, they were actually given the order to stand down and just just to pull people out that were being peaceful or that were being attacked, but not actually to engage. So they had to stand there and watch these people burning shit down around them.
That must be soul crushing for a cop.
Yeah,
but who the fuck gave that order? Because we know it happened. We have several cops that were there that have given statements that have said we were given the order to stand down. This is what has happened. They have stated that they were told to stand down. Who gave that order? Well, funnily enough, I actually found out who gave that order.
Oh, please do tell.
Her name is Rosa Brooks.
Oh, I feel a story coming on.
I've only got a little snippet about her. Again, I would have to take a look at her in closer detail. But she's also the person that was talking about doing a military coup against Trump.
Oh God.
She was advocating for a military coup against Trump, and she also gave. She was a Obama administration official that has still got some power in California, and yeah, she gave the order.
See, now that is the ultimate proof administration is not totalitarian. In fact, it's probably the most lenient so far in its short administration so far, because under any other presidency and vice presidency that I can think of, that woman would already have had a very uncomfortable visit from the CIA.
Yeah. And she also wrote in a blog post 4 ways to get rid of President Trump, including declaring him mentally unfit for command. And as I said in this blog post, she also wrote about carrying out a military coup. I believe I've got the blog post.
I mean, isn't that treason right there? That's the kind of thing we as Britons used to have people up on the Tower Hill and chop their heads off for. Just for even like thinking it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, or Di will be able to give us a bit more information, being the
token American.
The American. Yeah, the token American who's in the chat rather than in the stream itself. Yeah.
I think
this is foreignpolicy.com to get rid of President Trump before 2020. And I'm not going to read this all out. I'm just going to summarize what she actually says. There's essentially 4 ways to get rid of a crummy president. First, of course, the world can just wait patiently for November 2020 to roll around. So, you know, they can sit back, be patient, and then vote him out when it comes time to vote.
You know, the legal way of dealing with it, like everyone else had to under both of the previous presidents that haven't exactly had consistent approval ratings throughout their administration.
Yeah. Now, the second way, and this is the one that I'm seeing a lot being called impeachment. So, yeah, she's shouting about trying to get him impeached or for breaking the Constitution and stuff like that. Now, I had a very long conversation with in our general chat. I'd done some research beforehand, but I wanted to clarify things with someone that actually lived in America. And nothing so far as I can tell, he confirmed for me, will get him impeached. He hasn't broken the Constitution or any of their major laws or anything like that.
Well, hang on, just one moment. Married man, yes?
Sorry?
Trump is a married man, yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay, good. I just needed somebody to say yes. Right, well, I know how she can get him impeached pretty much immediately. Swallow some pride and also his cum.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what ruined Bill Clinton, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, moving on with seriousness.
Former President Bill Clinton was impeached for lying about his affair with Monica.
Oh, is that the case of it?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's unfortunate because Trump would probably brag about it.
I don't know. Looking at the picture of her, I don't think that I don't think he would want to admit to it. She's a bit of a munter, if I'm honest.
Oh, well, there you go then. There you are, lady. I've solved your political problem for you. All you have to do is get down on your knees and pray at the altar of Trump.
See,
So yeah, option 3, appeal to Vice President Pence's ambitions and get Pence in. You know,
even as a Briton, I know that's a fucking retarded idea. Oh God, how stupid do you have to be to want Pence instead? Fuck. I'd rather have a 3-legged fucking rocking horse.
oh. Yeah, it actually says in the article that he was impeached. So, yeah, it actually
Maybe
says
he
in the
left
article.
voluntarily before he could be.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it does actually say that Bill Clinton was impeached in the article. So, I mean, I'm not holding any of these to like absolute. I'm just trying to highlight her fucking absolute fucking dumbfounded mentality. And then yeah,
Fucking appeal to Pence's ambition. What kind of...
I've been watching too much Game of Thrones, to be honest.
Yeah, well...
Yeah, and then she says, and I'm going to read this verbatim. The fourth possibility is one that until recently I would have said was unthinkable in the United States of America. A military coup, or at least a refusal by military leaders to obey certain orders.
I don't understand. Is there a civil war ongoing? How would having the generals not following his orders threaten his political stability at home?
Well,
it might fuck up his foreign ambitions, but...
The until recently that got me.
Yeah, well, how recently is recently? I hope she means 2004.
But yeah, you know, so... Yeah, her options are fucking retarded.
Why no? Option number one. Option number one seems like the moral, righteous, and intellectually honest way of doing it. After the whole Clinton campaign finger wagging of now accept the result, won't you?
Yeah, I know. It's like, will you accept the result? Maybe if it's legitimate. So you saying that the military leaders not acting upon Trump's orders would be an act of treason?
Well, of course.
Is that in regards to something else? Sorry, I like to get clarification just so that
yeah, I guess maybe
you know, things are, you know, no one's acting on assumptions.
I am a little quick to rush ahead with the things I think I know.
Yeah, so you know, I do like to try and ask for clarification so that no one can make an assumption.
If you could excuse me for 2 seconds, I'll be right back.
Needs more whiskey, clearly. I'm still only halfway through my tumbler of whiskey. I think I'm doing very well, all things considered.
I'm on my second, but then I've been reading these things.
Good bit of single malt helps the bigotry go down.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's confused and scared me, is that both sides of the argument have been steadily converging on the same rhetoric from different directions, and that's the point where you get a schism within an entire society.
Yeah, I mean, they call it the horseshoe theory, where if you go so far along one way, it's like a curve. So
you go far enough left, you end up right.
Yeah, you know, or at least the actions end up the same. You know, the rhetoric ends up the same, but coming from a different direction.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, this is the kind of thing that tore the Christian church apart 3 successive times, was people finding a point to disagree over, slowly developing narratives as to the whys and wherefores, and then a period of successive escalation, increasingly yelling heretic at each other until it came to blows.
Yeah.
And it's coming to blows.
Yeah, we're seeing that now with the left and the right. I mean,
it isn't here just yet, thanks God. I mean, not to the same scale, at least.
I don't know. I was going to say, look at fucking Berkeley and say that it isn't here. You know, it's like that. My opinion is that, you know, they know that their previous tactics have failed. They know that. There's no way in hell that they can know that.
By calling everyone who doesn't think the same way as them either evil or stupid. Yeah, that's really going to motivate.
They realise that hasn't been working. So they've just gone through separate stages of sexist, racist, homophobic until they realise that that's not working.
They've run out of slurs,
and so it's become this huge hyperbolic misrepresentation of everyone that seems to be to the right of them or disagrees with them as this.
Even within their own political groups.
This vast uprising of fascism and Nazism.
Guys, sorry to break in. Di has answered my question. The lady asking for the coup, so we're talking about I think it's Rosa Brooks. Her asking for the coup, and as I said, I read it out verbatim in her blog post. Is treason. And officers failing to follow a legal order can be charged with treason during times of war. So if they're at war and someone says, no, I'm not doing it, then that could be charged with treason. Her stating, you know, if we can get, I will read it out. The fourth possibility is one that I would have said unthinkable in the United States of America, a military coup. You know, that her sort of calling for that is treason.
Not even calling it an option is treason. And for good reasons. You know, nobody wants someone running around the country who's calling for the forcible armed removal of a democratically elected leader.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that way lies Syria all over again, or Egypt.
Yeah, I mean, you've got,
look at the clusterfuck the Arab Spring turned out to be.
And you've got is it Silverman?
Sarah Silverman.
Sarah Silverman, who keeps calling for people to join the resistance.
You see, it's the two sides, Orthodox and Catholic, yelling heretic at each other. And
Silverman is again left. Both of these people that I have mentioned are both left.
Yeah, but you will also find extreme right groups.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Who
will use the same language.
Yeah, going back to the previous subject of kiddie fiddling. The person that I was originally going to talk about, who has been suspended from Twitter, so I can't get the entire feed. So there was kind of no point in me talking about him. He is far right.
So in the grand tradition of,
he's talking about kiddie fiddling not actually harming children and that they can consent. That was
I remember you talking about
gist,
this.
You know, that was the overall gist of his
argument.
Of his arguments.
Was
that it doesn't mentally harm or physically harm a child, and that they can consent. He's far right, but those are the kinds of rhetorics that the far left are talking about as well. So they are talking about the same things, just coming from a different angle.
Well, unfortunately, we can't use this information in our discussion too much because of the grand tradition of the internet. Pics or it didn't happen.
Yeah, and I was a twat and I didn't actually take screenshots, which I really should have done.
You've got to jump on that shit while it's hot because Twitter will smack it down hard.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't have done if he was left.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? But again, let's not lean on that as a point, because we can't in any way substantiate
Yeah,
it.
no.
Yeah, it's like, a lot of the things that we've spoken about is leftist views, but they haven't necessarily come from leftist people. It's a lot of
Can we
rhetoric.
return back to Berkeley after this?
Yeah,
Terribly sorry.
The derailing has happened. We have to watch for it. We have to be ever vigilant for the derailing. Just as misinformation is rife, so is the derail.
Yes. We're good at derailing.
No, the derailment.
Yeah,
hate the derailment.
I'm going to quickly run to the bathroom, guys, but you're more than welcome to jump back into Berkeley chat.
I can carry on again. I love it.
Yeah, welcome back, by the way, Monkey.
Yes, good to be back.
Yeah, welcome back, Han.
Relatively.
10 minutes after the fact.
Yes. So, I want to go back to Berkeley. That's just depressing, but it's okay to have a problem with things that Milo Yiannopoulos says. Some of the things he says, I disagree with. Some of the things, like there was this clip of him saying, you should judge people based on their actions, not their skin color, their sexuality, their gender, and be suspicious of those that would. I believe that's right. I believe a person's merit is in what they do and what they don't do. And if you want to peacefully protest his words, that's fine. But it's this worrying normalization of political violence over the past few weeks, and it's worrying how quickly it's happened after the whole punching of Richard Spencer. Everyone was like, it's punching Nazis. Punching Nazis is good, because I haven't actually looked at his politics, but this person over here says he's a neo-Nazi. He's got that sort of haircut. He must be a neo-Nazi. He's to the right of me. And then it's this justification of punching someone for their political views. I don't particularly agree with Richard Spencer, but he shouldn't be punched on the street on the basis of his politics, which in the realm of the mainstream media, as has been the case with various people on the left, as having their political opinions misrepresented and a falsified, hyperbolic, or exaggerated, or just a completely flat out wrong representation, complete misrepresentation of their opinions are shown. There was a article the other day on I think BuzzFeed representing left wing but skeptic YouTubers such as Sargon and Shu as
and
alt-right,
Blair White.
And Blair White as alt-right.
Not only are they alt-right, apparently, despite the fact that Sargon is, I think he's centre left, the same as myself.
Oh, he is. He's on the left.
And,
one of the things he was talking about on the when it came to the general election was who to vote for, and he took his time. He looked at the political manifestos. He was actually tempted to vote for the Green Party. So
why not?
And I mean,
why not indeed?
It's like he's I think he's centre left, so he's not alt-right. But I believe in that same article, they actually said that people like Milo Yiannopoulos, Sargon of Akkad, Shu on Head, and Blair White are gateways to becoming Nazis. Ways to becoming Nazis.
Logic and reasoned argument are gateway drugs to fascism. Love it. Wait, that means that they hooked John Jafari on the low level.
I think I've
John Tron is getting the kids with his retro Nintendo reviews.
Yeah, Oh, so that's why they've been going after video games, because
Yeah.
video games lead to YouTubers, and
Yeah.
YouTubers lead to fuck. We lost the train. Help me. Ah, yes, YouTube leads to bearing.
Oh yeah, and Bearing is absolute scum.
Let's be fair.
I had to change the title of the stream, guys, because
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Jolly good.
I'm sorry,
Love
but
it.
that was just
Great.
too perfect to not immortalize.
They're the gateway drugs to Nazism. And that's the thing. It's this willful ignorance of people's beliefs, of being unskeptical of information that you're being given to because it's convenient. It's confirmation bias. You've got this
Yeah.
thing brewing in the left that's becoming actually quite terrifying, where you've got the normalization of political violence against people whose ideas you deem dangerous, people such with people being labeled as fascists and Nazis, and it's people that increasingly are just people that disagree with this mainstream point of view that everyone who to the right of them is this evil fascist Nazi that's conspiring to put Trump in power, and Trump is going to take away all these rights because he hates women and he hates the gays. And there's this it's just that comment during the election cycle where he made a joke about Rosie O'Donnell, and someone come in an interview was like, what about the comments about you hating women? And it was like,
It's like,
I
no, I
only
hate
said-
one woman.
I already said it about Rosie O'Donnell. But then you've got people I've seen today. I'm not going to name any names. I don't want people being dragged into this unnecessarily. But I saw this thing about what's people's problems with Ivanka Trump, Donald Trump's wife, and one of the responses was she humanizes him, as if Donald Trump is not actually a human. I don't know if we're getting into the government and the pinnacle of society is being engineered by lizard people wearing skin suits, or it's to the point where people are being whipped up into this like flurry of panic. It's this weird panic about people, about this rise of Nazism, about this rise of fascism, where you've got Donald Trump.
Where no fascism exists.
It does exist.
Yeah, it's like,
You've
it's
also
like-
got-
Not in the White House is my point. That
No.
it does exist as an ideology and people ascribe to it, but nobody in power that we can immediately point to and unequivocally say there is a fascist.
It's quite funny because the especially with the Republican Party, where their platform is the dissolution of power from the Senate and from Washington to state rights and the ability of states to govern themselves with minimal input from the government, and the dissolution of power outwards from the government to the individual states. And if anything, that is the complete opposite of there was a poster going around with everything ticked off of it on the signs of fascism. One of them was the consolidation of power, where the whole furore about the Trump administration hating gays, other than the whole Mike Pence gay conversion therapy thing, was that Trump wanted to remove the ability for gay people to get married, but wasn't the actual idea to have, instead of a state mandated thing, it to be instead of it being mandated by the central government, being a mandate of the state government, and it would be up to the state, which would be determined by the will of the people in those states. And to be honest, I think, bar the most extreme cases, the majority of people in Western world are pro things like gay marriage. And there was the whole thing about Trump hating on abortion, but the whole issue was actually about advertising abortion, not restricting the access to it. There was a thing about, instead of it being done on being funded by the government, it was privately funded. But that's a different argument entirely about what the government funds and what doesn't. And then you're getting into a debate on socialism and capitalism, and that's not something for this chat. But it's the
Yeah.
misrepresentation of that as Trump hates gays, Trump hates the women, that muddy the waters. It radicalizes people one way or the other. You've got people that see that as, well, that must be true, and so they go one way. You have people going, well, that's obviously not true, and then they go the complete opposite way.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's how you. It's,
you know, you have people
past-
that sort of go, oh well, this one thing that I don't agree with, you know, I've had it with some people. You know, I follow some people on YouTube, and I've read some articles and that, and they've made one point that I've been like, yeah, I agree with that.
Mhm.
And then the rest of their article, or the rest of what they've said, has been like, oh, that's a drivel. This is complete bullshit. Or it's been the other way around, where they've talked like really, really good all the way through, and then they've made a point, and I'm like, I don't agree with that one. You know, and so, you know, being able to say, I agree with this, but not this in regards to a person, it seems to be something that people, you know, a lot of people on particularly the far left and the far right, don't seem to be able to do. What they do is they sort of go, well, I don't agree with this person in general, so I won't agree with anything that they ever say.
Yeah.
Well,
You know?
again, that it comes back to my analogy with religious schisms.
Yeah.
This is a cultural schism. It's becoming dogmatic, and dogma is a powerfully dangerous thing because it does not allow for questions.
The past few years, you've got this increasing divide between the left and the right, and that's how you've got things like the mainstream media labeling people who supported Trump as deplorables, and yet Trump won. Even if you go against even if you go with the Hillary won the popular vote, it was the way that if you would go by the same logic, then UKIP would have actually won a lot more seats in Parliament, considering they had a much larger share than the one MP that they got in Britain during the general election. And it's because it's a representative democracy, so you don't have 3-4 cities on the west and east coast
dominating everything
just due to
popularity,
population density.
And that's the whole reason for the
electoral college.
Yeah, for the electoral college, isn't it? Is so that like 3 or 4 cities don't dominate the entire the entire country's politics. So, you know, it's like for those people that turn around and go, oh well, no, it should be one person, one vote, and screw the electoral college. Actually, you kind of need the electoral college to keep things.
Yeah, that's all well and good.
The shoe was on the other foot, and it was Hillary in the lead with the electoral college, but Trump had won the majority of the vote. The majority of the vote. Then you would see people on the opposite side with the same argument, but would you see people on the left saying, "Oh no, the electoral college is broken," or would they be fully supportive of the Electoral College? And is this purely a case of my side lost, I'm not happy about that?
Yeah, well, even then,
Then-
you know, I don't think. I mean, there's been people on the right that didn't vote for Obama, that didn't like Obama, didn't want him in office, particularly for a second term. Where were the riots when he was,
Yeah,
you know,
elected.
when he was when he was elected? You know,
Especially him being a black man with a Muslim name. And you know who's the
Yeah.
most vocal and outspoken person about that?
Yeah.
A black pastor.
Yeah.
yeah.
See, there's this thing that really confuses me, is the somewhat deification of Obama, in the fact that when it comes to previous administrations, comparing him to the Bush administration, he ordered more attacks on the Middle East than Bush did. And Bush,
Yeah.
if I recall
It's
correctly,
he
also
did.
served 2 terms. There's this whole thing about the quote unquote Muslim ban, which isn't that. It's a travel ban for 90 days. 90 days? I think it's 90 days for certain countries. But
Yeah, I mean, and it's a blanket. It's a blanket travel
it's blanket
ban,
regardless
travel
of who it is and their religion. But it's
Yeah.
it's this whole idea as this is how you create terrorism. But then you're also forgetting the fact that
Did
Obama
you see this comment?
Obama ordered a huge number of drone strikes in the Middle East, and I'm sure a travel ban probably doesn't create the same amount of disdain for a country than the ever-looming threat of explosive death from something that you can sort of hear and then sudden explosion.
Yeah, but I mean,
Could happen at any time.
you hear? I mean, how and I'm doing the finger quote thing. Yeah, Islamophobic is this, right? How do you create terrorists? Ban them from your country. It's like ban a religion from your country, and it's like, hang on a sec, guys, because that really speaks poorly of your view on Muslims. It's like if you think that, you know, a 90-day or 120-day, I can't remember how
It's
long.
90 with the option to extension, I believe.
Right. Yeah. You know, it's like if you think it's like a 90-day travel ban is going to create terrorists, or, you know, religious terrorists and that in the country because their religion isn't allowed in, you know, neither is the Christians from those countries, or the atheists or the Hindus, or, you know, it will ignore all those people. You know, it's just the Muslims we're focusing on. But, you know, it's like, you know, it's like how fucking bad is it? Yeah, the ban was overturned by a judge. You know, that has been.
Yeah, but it's still a political point somehow.
Yeah,
the thing is, what I want, my takeaway from this is, you've got a climate where there's this ever-growing rift between the left and the right, and then suddenly you've got people on the left with high positions of influence on the side of actors in Hollywood, and you've gone from jokes about politicians, but just on the Hollywood side, you've got jokes about assassinating Trump. Then you've gone to jokes about bombing the White House from Madonna. Then you've got the
someone
actor
genuinely calling for
military coup.
You've got the guy
even as
from
an option.
Stranger Things. I love that show, but about this whole idea of punching people in the face. But it's this whole, and well, then continue on to Sarah Silverman and this this Democrat lady with the connections to the Order to Stand Down with the Cops, calling pretty much for a military bloody coup. And
yeah, I mean, it's Sarah Silverman. I mean, have you seen the tweets
Yeah.
that she actually posted up.
But and then you've got this. It's this hot, weird, strange, like alternate reality where they live, where there's this looming threat of fascism, and it's just this weird hyperbole that's just it's just this massive snowball of bullshit where they've taken things and then exaggerated them and then spun them and then exaggerated the spin some more and then exaggerated the result to the point where both sides of the political spectrum are whipping themselves up based on the actions of the other, but it's the actions of the other multiplied and spun and exaggerated.
It's
And
shield
then-
bashing and saber rattling. They're
It is.
preparing for a cultural
And-
war.
Something big is going to happen in the next few years. And with this whole legitimization of punching people for political beliefs and then hyperbolizing people's political beliefs, taking them out of context, giving them opinions that they don't even fucking have, and then calling them names based on your assumptions of their ideas despite never actually listening to them, and going on the basis of them saying I disagree with you on this, especially when it comes to political fucking violence, to the point where you've got a bunch of people who are convinced that there's this massive fascist Nazi uprising about to happen in America and Trump's the front runner in this, and they're prepared. They seem to be getting ready to take back liberty at all costs from the democratically elected man with the funny hair, and
And the
you've
orange
got a bunch
skin.
of people saying you've got this bunch of people that have like this delusions of this grand oppression
Yeah.
that are
I mean,
militarizing, that are assaulting people, that are setting things on fire.
And
And
this is what Sarah
beating people
Silverman.
into, like, on the interview I mentioned it earlier, between the woman that got caught up in the protests at Berkeley and Stefan Molyneux, that she was discussing that her husband ended up having to go to hospital, and he was one of the people beaten because they were pepper spraying people in the face. They were beating them with flagpoles. They were going, "Here's a Nazi, chase the Nazi, beat the Nazi." He was one of the people that were beaten, and he ended up with broken ribs. Just broken ribs was, I think, the thing.
But
Just broken
this
ribs
is what
is
Sarah
acceptable.
Silverman posted up. This is what Sarah Silverman posted up in regards to Berkeley. This was posted up shortly after everything calmed down. I think it was the day after. Fear can motivate even peacenik snowflakes to incite violence. And last night I felt it hard, trying to keep in check because, damn it, I love you, America.
Oh God. And that's the thing. It's this vast insular culture of both sides, where both sides thinks the other are absolute morons. They won't discuss things on the points. They will just yell at each other. And now there's this whole air of militancy and the actual threat of violence. And you've got groups like Antifa and the rest of the Black Bloc. Black Bloc, for anyone confused, is referring to the anarcho X-ists, where X can refer to a number of things involving capitalist, communist. I mean, the capitalists aren't really involved in this. It's mostly the anarcho-communists, which Antifa are composed of. And you've got violence against people because they're being labeled because of their beliefs, whether rightly or wrongly, as evil term. And you've got fucking Hollywood supporting the idea that violence against these people is good because of some perceived they will do this thing, just no matter what they're actually going to fucking do, which is probably fucking nothing, because it's either a bunch of powerless people that actually have these ideas but won't fucking do anything because they're just these small extreme fringe, or pretty much or mainstream people that maybe don't believe the media hyperbole and like, hang on a minute, let's not get violent, which then get put into this stupid group of fascist sympathizers, which are then as bad as the fascists they are then enabling, because apparently not wanting people to be assaulted on the street for perceived differences in opinion is encouraging fascism, which is being blown out of all proportion anyway. And so you've got this stupid situation where in a few years, or even this year, if the fucking rate of
Degeneracy?
acceleration,
Escalation.
the escalation, it's fucking it's hyperbolic acceleration of escalation of all of this. Well, in 2 weeks, we've gone from basically nothing
You're
to
racist.
we've gone from nothing to we could have a military coup because Donald Trump, who people didn't vote for, ended up as president and was inaugurated just two weeks ago.
Yeah, I
two
mean,
weeks,
this is
16 days ago, and you've already got people
Yeah.
going straight to fucking military coup level. We need to have this crazy armed resistance against.
Yeah, I mean,
because
speaking
everything
speaking of the
anyone does.
resistance monkey, this is the Sarah Silverman comment that, and I've linked it in the chat in the stream. Yeah, this is the comment that keeps getting thrown around. They haven't really spoken about the other one much, but this is again Sarah Silverman. Wake up and join the resistance. Once the military is with us, fascists get overthrown. Mad King and his handlers go bye-bye. And then it's 4 heart emoticons.
That is Mao Zedong talk.
Yeah. Oh, that's
That
the funny
is-
thing. That's the other hilarious thing. I say it's hilarious. It's fucking depressing. Is you've got this whole thing where the whole idea of this fascist oppressive machine is coming from the right, which has been this weird fantasy that's been going on. Like, if fascism is coming back, it's coming from the right, and yet you've got people openly avowing themselves as hardcore anarcho-communists, and that's apparently that's a really acceptable position to have, even though even at their riots they're putting things like liberals get the bullet too, which was seen at the Berkeley riots. And you've got Maoists, and you've got fascism being the most horrific thing, and Nazism being the most horrific thing. And you've still got, this isn't discounting the horrors that actually happened during World War II under the Nazi
or
Party.
any other,
But you've got people going,
regime.
well, obviously communism is the way forward, and
yeah, because that worked out so well.
Celebrating and following fucking Chairman Mao, or Mao Zedong,
and Marx.
Well, Marx was basically a neat who got drunk on other people's money for his entire life, and occasionally wrote some books about the rights of workers. So
yeah,
forgive me if I'm not the greatest. Not the greatest.
Di made a comment in the. I don't think many people are fans of his work, or many sort of people that like free speech and liberties, and all that good stuff that comes with democracies and Western thinking.
You've got.
But yeah, Di said in the chat,
the left won't talk.
Monkey, the left won't talk. They cannot take the chance that they may be wrong.
Well,
I would actually expand that to, members of the right as well.
Yeah, members of every fucking side. And the most annoying thing is that every time you've got someone on either political side of the political spectrum that hyperbolizes the opposite side's arguments, that then people look at and go and actually find out the facts for themselves and go, hang on a minute, I'm being lied to. It pushes people away. You're not winning people onto your side every time you hyperbolize someone else's arguments. You're not every time you exaggerate the stance of somebody on the other side to try and misrepresent them. Every time you call someone a fascist, every time you call someone a Nazi based on their political opinions, even though you haven't actually heard them speak, even though all you know is that someone once told you that they are this, therefore I must believe this. The complete lack of critical thinking on people's parts and just eagerly eating up things. It's the horrible thing is people are getting propagandized and indoctrinated into a way of thinking because it's really fucking appealing, because you get to feel it's like the whole idea, the whole thing between that whole study about the feelings of oppression giving you a release of endorphins, like
it doesn't actually give you a release of endorphins. It releases.
It's a similar
it's the same. It's the same
heroin.
chemical as heroin. That's released in your head, because what you do is you go, I'm oppressed and I have a victim. I have a victim card and I'm a victim. And then someone turns around and goes, you're not a fucking victim. Grow up. Stop acting like a fucking moron. And they go, see, look, I'm being victimized. I'm being oppressed. And that gives them the release of that chemical. And I can't remember for the life of me what the name of the chemical is in.
And that position is really fucking appealing. You look at pop culture. You look at anything look at political movements nowadays. Look at the stories we tell. It's always of this. It's even going way back. It's the hero's journey. It's the person that finds themselves in a spectacular circumstance where they are being oppressed, or something happens to them which forces them into this path where they have to not only save themselves but save the country that they live, or save the people that they love from some terrible evil. And it's just this comic book fantasy of right and wrong, where you've got people saying we are on the right side of history, and that pisses
which is
me
terrifying.
It's
and
a terrible
the
thought, because
the number of times I have seen either side, the left and the right, and even the sort of center skeptics and that say we'll be on the right side of history.
It's like, well, who the fuck are you to judge? Because history is written by the winners, and the winners don't necessarily have to be clever people.
No.
Yeah, it's so that statement to me is
so full of hubris.
Yeah, it is very much full of hubris, but it's almost dangerous, because the people that say that tend to be very dogmatic and tend to be very fucking, it's like, I am right. Everything I say is right.
And they're also setting
you
up
can't
for a
say,
fight.
it's you can't say things.
Sorry, as soon as you say we are on the right side of history, you're drawing a hard line. You're framing a conflict. You are that's fighting talk in political terms.
And
that is vilifying the opposition, and by
you're boxing all of your beliefs as right. You're boxing in your beliefs as these are the right beliefs, because the people who believe these beliefs are on the right side of history. And so any deviation from that norm, quote unquote norm, I'm putting the air quotes, I'm doing the finger waggles, are the wrong people. And that's the thing. You've got people that on most things, people agree on things, but it's the small differences that suddenly divide everybody. And it's the increasing militancy is what's worrying. But you've got people living with, and they get more invested in this whole belief, because if they accept that they might be wrong on something, that actually some of the other beliefs, and everyone's built, and people are building themselves up on ivory towers where they are the righteous ones, they are the true ones.
Exactly.
They're battling people off. But to counter your quote comment in the chat, Di, you've got people that are on the right that just want civil discourse, and
Yeah, I mean,
you've got people on the left that want civil discourse, and it's really fucking annoying seeing that you've got a bunch of people that want to have these discussions, and then you've got the extremists on both sides, and it becoming even more polarized, and people are getting drawn to both of the people are gradually getting drawn to either side due to the extremism from the other, and it's this horrifying thing where it's just like everyone in the middle just getting gobbled up by either side until there's just a few in the middle that remain getting caught in the bloody until the side both extreme sides are big enough to actually go at each other in some horrible fucking conflict. And I know that seems hyperbolic despite what I've been saying. I appreciate the fact that I've been saying hyperbolic and all the similar words all fucking night.
But I mean, Monkey.
But it's the sudden increase in the acceptability of political violence against people that think differently to you that has got me absolutely fucking terrified for the future, frankly.
Yeah, and Monkey, you look at, you're talking about the extremists on each side. I mean, you have what I've often referred to as the regressive left.
Yeah.
Which is the far left.
Mm.
And then you've got the alt-right, which is the far right.
Which is the regressive right.
Yeah,
kind
it
of,
is. It
by the
pretty
same
much is.
token.
But
it is kind of I'd be inclined to agree that it's the regressive right. You've also got groups like MGTOW, and if you actually look at the more extreme members of MGTOW itself, some of the things that they say is, it can be taken as incitement. I mean, I've seen some of them say things like women should be eradicated. And I know that echoes the regressive left's fucking kill all men hashtags and stuff like that. And I don't agree with any of it.
No.
Who would?
The extremists
what sensible...
And the extremists on one side of the argument, their actions and their speech is being used by the extremists on the other side to justify their actions. And the most terrifying, the group I'm more worried about at the moment is the extreme left, because they seem to be.
I think everyone of rational mind is more worried about the extreme left. But it would be fucking stupid of us. It would be absolutely moronic of us not to also consider the extreme right.
Oh yeah.
And look at them and
the
go,
problem is,
actually, you guys ain't exactly much better. You've just got a smaller voice.
Yeah, they've got a smaller voice, and ignoring their voice because it's smaller doesn't do anyone any service. The whole idea with debate is to be able to go into it. The whole idea with debate, you're not actually convincing the person on the other side, it's convincing everyone else. And
that's true.
If you ignore it, you let it grow, you let it fester. I think all viewpoints must be challenged, even your own. And that's the important thing, is self-reflection. But at the moment, you've got groups that because their arguments are being exaggerated, are being misrepresented, they're ignoring everything that the people who misrepresent them are saying. People are doing this on both sides, so there's no discourse, there's no anything that's productive. It's just two groups insulating themselves from the other, growing in size and number, reacting off of the actions of the other, and whipping themselves up into a fucking furor until there's going to be some sort of conflict in the future, and that's what's worrying.
Yeah, and I mean, I am. Oh no, don't cancel. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be paying for it in that, but actually look at things that have
read the
biased
website.
reportings.
Read the website.
Read the website.
You know,
This is why
You
print
know,
media is dying,
go
is
to,
because it's so much
liberal medias and stuff like that, and read their shit, and then go to alternative medias and read or watch or listen to their shit, and then
Yeah.
make up your own mind.
Read
You know, it's like,
the media of the opposition. Read the media of the opposition intensely and try your level best. Then read the media of your own camp and try your level best to disagree and see where you
Yeah,
end
it's
up.
like, you know,
Maybe you can find a moderate medium that actually does report without bias, and I can fucking wish you the best of luck on that, because you're not going to find unbiased reporting anywhere.
Yeah. What is a news service
Ever.
like something like CNN, like the BBC? It's a company that has formed. I mean, the BBC is a bit of a different exception because it's funded by pretty much the public through the.
Not so much of an exception
it's
anymore.
Yeah, it's where it's awkward because it's.
Yeah, not anymore.
No, I'm not going on the bias standpoint. I'm going on the fact that the way it's funded is the way it's through mandatory the television tax.
Oh, you know
the television license.
You can actually, you know the people that come and knock on your door to say you don't.
Yeah,
have
they're
a
not
television
actually.
license,
They don't actually have any authorization.
They're not allowed in.
To enter your
they're not
property
allowed in,
without
and
express permission.
And you are allowed to record them.
Yeah.
So long as the camera is obvious. So if you walk in there with your phone held up and like, yeah, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you are allowed to record them doing that. And they tend to run away really fast, which is kind of funny.
Not that I would, because as much as I despise the concept of the outmoded TV license, and especially the radio license, the BBC as it stands is quite possibly the single greatest media achievement of the British people.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, it's a shame that it's so fucking biased.
The secret history of mammals, all that other. I mean, would you begrudge a license so long as you keep getting David Attenborough? I wouldn't.
No, but I do begrudge a license if I'm getting fucking BBC Three.
Yes, if you also happen to have a Sky Dish, it begins to become a lot more complicated.
Oh yes, that's the problem. Is that the television license? Well, originally I guess you've got like 5 channels. One, 2
Try
of which
2.
were BBC. Yeah, and then
originally 2.
Originally 2, and both of those were BBC, weren't they?
Yeah, basically.
Then you could probably, and then that was
justify
the fact. You could probably justify it, but now it's the fact that in Britain, this has gone way off of Berkeley now, but it's the whole idea that you should have to pay one company for permission to have a piece of technology that is capable of receiving their channel, even if you never use their channel, just to own that piece of technology.
In order to access the privilege of paying for the other 500 channels.
Oh yeah, just to access that. And it's absolutely stupid the way it's done in this country, but it's the only way the BBC can function, I guess, without advertisements. But I think
it's all
the BBC at this point, I believe, should be able to stand on their own 2 feet like every other network on the air.
Well, they're certainly not producing the superlative quality that they used to in comparison to their competition, inverted commas. The free market of television broadcast is definitely producing a comparable, if not better, grade of content.
The television broadcast is losing out greatly to the internet. In any case,
hello.
Which is why the
come watch this. Where we pretty much, by disagreeing with half the things the left said, have pretty much self-identified as fascists and Nazis. And
okay, actually,
currently waiting to be
But
punched
you
in
know,
the street.
that's
but-
the reason why the internet is now covered under the TV licensing laws, is
Yeah.
that they are losing money on TV, so that now they have to actually claim, because you can watch real-time TV on the internet.
Yeah.
It's covered by the TV licensing laws. It's so that they can
Which
make
is
money
a-
back.
Which is an
Basically-
argument. It's an argument with points in favour.
But it's also the argument where we're assuming that the BBC's television license is not an outmoded piece of shit that needs to be gotten rid of.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
As you can tell by
absolutely.
my
You know,
wording
so at
that
this point,
I don't actually
know-
agree with it, funnily enough. But
well, to be
We've
honest,
gone way off topic.
we
this
have gone
is
way off
derailed.
topic.
I think I have closed the salt mine on Barclay for now. I don't know
can
if
I-
I articulated everything without repeating myself. I probably repeated myself on several things so many times. I think someone should probably watch through this and I'll probably
Edit it down.
later where it has a counter in the corner for every time I say hyperbole, exaggeration, or
Oh, it's
what-
probably a couple billion by now.
Oh yes, I've said that way too many times. But that's the whole thing. Is if anyone that watches this, what I want them to take away from this, if they actually made it this far, is look through the hyperbole, look through the exaggeration, when you read an outlet's reporting on something. Remember that the whole idea of a news outlet is for them to collate information for you and present it to you, but how they present it to you is subject to their bias.
Yeah.
Understand that they have bias. They will want to misrepresent or represent things the way they want you to understand it. When you can go to the source, be skeptical. When, as Gav said then earlier, look at news outlets with opposing opinions to yours. Try to believe them. Look at your own. Try to disagree with them. Try to find out the truth in the middle of the bloody murky pool of shit that most modern outlets pump out. And try.
But as I said in the chat, no one claiming to speak the news, whether mass or alternative, will be a wholly reliable source. Dare to view all sides and find the facts yourself.
Basically, it's a plea to rationality above all else is what this entire video, misguided in our opinions or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
if you take anything from this, it's a plea for rationality, calm, and understanding.
Don't believe our opinion on face value.
Yeah.
Listen to
Even
our,
ours, especially ours.
Especially ours.
Yeah,
listen to our arguments.
Everything that we've covered, go out, and if it's something that you are interested in, or even if it's not, don't fucking just take us at face value. We're a bunch of fucking
biased, unreliable.
Youngish, biased, unreliable people.
Yeah.
Don't just fucking listen to us and go, well, they've clearly got everything covered.
And
do your own research and form your own opinions.
And for the love of God, if you go, well, Fox News is a load of biased nonsense, I don't believe anything they say, and then pull up something from somewhere like BuzzFeed or Occupy Democrats, which have
or CNN
or CNN at this point, I guess. I mean, that's probably.
Well, when CNN is quoting BuzzFeed, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but yeah, and then
by all means,
post that as the empirical truth. Look at what you're posting. Look at where you get your news. Try to work out where you are being manipulated, where the truth is being manipulated, and try to go back to the source, because that is where they get their information. Well, I hope they get their information is the source. Go to the source. Look at the unbiased source, and that's where you'll find the truth.
And always, always, always be skeptical of people you find yourself agreeing with immediately.
Yes. You know, just
Because
you
if
agree
you
with
are
them,
agreeing with them immediately, eesh. Yeah, sorry, carry
yeah,
on.
it's like if you're agreeing with them immediately, it means you're not sat there thinking about what they're saying. And
Or
if
they
you're
know
not thinking
precisely
about
how
what
to
the
play you.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, you're not thinking about it. They're you know that you know people are playing you, or you know they're sort of making appeals to your way of thinking or whatever. You know, yeah, just go out and you know go. Okay, so this person said this, and I agreed with it. Why did I agree with it? You know, just go out and actually fucking think about what your you know what your views are. Get the research done. Look at all sides of a you know of something, and actually fucking you know don't just take people at face value. That doesn't work. You'll just end up becoming you will be end up becoming dogmatic, and you will end up becoming an echo chamber, which ends up with no, you disagree with me. I don't believe you on the grounds of you disagreed with me with this thing over here.
I mean, we've patted
Therefore,
each
I don't
other on the
agree with
back
you
an
at all.
awful lot, haven't we?
Yeah, I
Being
mean,
honest.
we all share opinions on a lot of things. I mean, I'm pretty sure we disagree on certain
A lot
things.
of people would call this a circle jerk.
Well,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I part of me really wanted to have people with conflicting opinions, but that's not going to have happened with the you know with the first stream, because most of the people I know and most of the people I speak to on a regular basis are people I tend to agree with.
Well, I don't know.
And that
Maybe when
is
we've
that
achieved.
is another thing I think people should look out for, is where you detect echo chambers forming. I mean, you
Yeah,
will get on with people that have the same opinions as you. I mean,
yeah,
but it's
you
also
will.
okay to still be friends with people that have different opinions. I mean, they say
I mean,
variety is the
I
spice of
am
life.
friends.
Carry on.
How it's most people. Yeah, I have friends which I often disagree with,
Mm.
particularly in the way of politics, and I have had some rather heated debates and you know almost arguments with them about it. You know, and I really like these people. I think they're really great people to be around. There are sometimes when they do my fucking head in, because I'm sat there going, how do you believe that? How?
Mm.
But it's a good thing that I sit back and I debate with them and I talk to them about it, because it keeps me grounded. It keeps me on a position where I'm sat there and my views are being challenged.
I
You know,
think
even if
I wouldn't. Sorry, I think I wouldn't be wrong in saying that we all consider ourselves here to be in the stream itself, the three of us, to be either centrist or centre
yeah,
left in basic ideals and morals.
yeah, and I'm centre left. Gav, you're probably centre or centre left. Monkey, I would estimate that you're centre left.
I
I
did
think
one of
Gav's
the
more.
I did one of those political compass things a while back. It was quite funny because I
Oh yeah,
managed to get pretty much as close to the center as you can without questioning whether I just hit the fucking bullseye. It was fucking weird.
but
I
yeah,
don't know
you're
if that's I
centre
don't that was a few years ago. I don't know if that's changed, but
But yeah, so
I have beliefs
you're
that would
pretty.
fall on the left. I have beliefs that fall on the right, and I think
Yeah, I mean,
everyone does.
I have beliefs that fall on the left and beliefs that fall on the right, but more of my beliefs fall leftwards than they do rightwards. I think Gav is more centre. I think I'm the most left here.
Well, I can have some very right wing reactionary knee jerk things when people come to me with a here is a situation. What is your answer?
Yeah,
Quite often, my immediate words are "fucking kill them."
but that's not necessarily centre. Yeah, that's not necessarily right, but yeah, right leaning. But yeah, you know, depending on the subject, I think a lot of your views are sort of more centrist.
Well, that's because I try not to let my heart bleed.
That's the other thing that is annoying about political discourse nowadays, is the constant appeal to emotion.
Yeah, and we had it in the recent debate we had in the group chat, and the person I was talking to posted up a video with, "As a woman, you should learn what X person is like." And I was just sat there going, well, as a woman, I don't give a flying fuck. As a person, it's like I don't give a flying fuck. I'm sorry, but my genitalia, my biology doesn't, it doesn't play into my politics. What
Careful,
I believe
Kat.
politically.
You're making the dangerous fallacy of equating genitals with gender.
Oh, fuck you. I'm sorry. But,
no, let's
and
not. This isn't the episode for that. This isn't the episode for that.
No, I'm going to make a comment on that though. And I have had a conversation with Di about my beliefs and Mark about my beliefs in regards to transgenders and what gender is. Gender is binary. I'm sorry, this is my belief. Gender is binary. You have male, you have female, X and Y chromosomes. You can transition from male to female. You can transition from female to male. They are still binary. And
intersex individuals are genetic flukes, huh?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but when you consider the norm to be a 1 or a 0, then
0.5 is an aberration.
Yeah, 0.5 is an aberration. It's not the norm. It's not it's a genetic divergence. It's a genetic defect when someone has an X for their genetic makeup, or a XYY for their genetic makeup, or an XXY for their genetic makeup. That is a genetic deviation. That is a genetic fuck up. That is not a new gender. So
it's like people with 6 fingers in each hand. It's like, yeah, that's okay. Nature did it, but it's not what's meant to happen.
Yeah, so I'm terribly sorry for anyone that fucking watches this at a later date and goes, "Oh my god!"
I'd say this is where this is the point of the video where we get lynched. But to be honest, we've been for 3 hours now, and if someone's made it this far, congratulations, you've managed to deal with all the rambling and the bullshit. So if you made it this far without getting really offended and turning the stream off or going,
I don't fucking agree with trigger warnings, so you're not getting one.
Then well done for making it this far.
And if you are terribly, horribly pissed off right now by our intimation that biology equals gender, which nobody has absolutely, positively, and 100% said is the complete truth all the time.
I know.
There's always YouTube heroes.
And
you fucking scumbag.
All I'm going to say is that if you've come this far going, well, I agree with you on this point, and I agree with you on this point, and then getting to this point and disagreeing with people, you are free to disagree with us on a point or two, or all of them but one. You're free to disagree with us on all our points. You're free to agree with us on all our points. You're free to do that.
And I welcome people fucking disagreeing. Yeah. Fucking go for it. Put it in the comments below, guys. And I fucking hate when people say that. It's always sounds so fucking disingenuous.
Put it in the fucking comments. This is meant to be a dialogue.
Come subscribe, put a thumbs up. leave a comment, increase my standing in the YouTube algorithm so I can make more money. Come on,
Hey,
guys.
Share with your friends.
Help me out.
This is not monetized, guys. There's no money being made on this. But yeah, it's like, this isn't meant to be a circle jerk. This isn't meant to be us going, yeah, I agree with you on that, and I agree with you on that, or I agree with you on that. It's like, no, we're not speaking of Davy or Mad Queen, but they do qualify for what we're talking about.
We should have them on sometime if we actually get anywhere with the series. That would be grand.
Fuck you.
Grand as fuck.
Fuck you both. God.
Seriously, most interesting comment may even get an invite if Kat decides that you're not a toxic troll.
Yeah, I mean, if you're coming in just to fucking troll with us and talk bullshit, then and just to say shit to get a reaction, then you're not getting an invite to the to the stream. But fucking dice started now. I hate you guys. I really fucking hate you guys.
But we must leave the door open to dialogue. No one is ever irredeemable.
No.
Right.
Until they start kitty fiddling or murdering folks.
I'm going to state this now on stream, on the very first stream of this fucking, of this channel.
To be honest, a proclamation of intent would probably have gone better at the start, but carry on.
No, I'm going to state this right now. I'm not deleting comments. Comments are staying open. The only comments that will not be published are ones of people turning around and going, "Sub to me, please." I'm terribly sorry, but if you're going to come onto someone's channel and just beg for subs, then I'm sorry, not going to happen. I find that incredibly rude. And, people that beg for subs will be the first ones to throw a fit when you go to their channel and beg for subs. So, with the exception of that.
No shit fits here, but.
Yeah, no one will be deleted, no matter how fucking toxic, no matter how toxic the shit that dribbles from their mouth is, I will not delete them. My comments will stay open. My ratings will stay open.
I'm going to downvote us right now, just to prove a point.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, first downvote. You ready for this?
Yep, go on.
I dislike this conversation because I'm fucking sleep deprived.
Oh, how do you think I feel? I mean, I fucking human hours. Here you are going, oh yeah, come join a stream. Okay.
Hey,
it'll be fun. We'll talk about politics and bullshit.
We
okay.
fucking arranged this.
It starts at 1 in the morning.
A few days ago.
Yes, this was arranged while Americans were still on the fucking table for attending.
Yeah, well,
then the Americans
there were Americans that
suddenly
weren't meant to be in here.
Best of both worlds turns into, oh God, I'm not actually going to sleep today.
Good thing it's a weekend and we have whiskey.
Yeah. How are you doing with your whiskey and
how
I've got a finger
are
left.
you with the shape of a Jim Beam bottle? Because
fairly, I wouldn't say I'm intimate with them.
Okay, so you've got the slender spout area or the neck of the bottle, and then it goes from there into this. It extends out into the square shape, but you've got a bit of a bulge.
It's like a larger version of a Jack Daniel's bottle.
Yeah. You've got a bulge at the top, and then it thins down minorly, just to give it a bevel that runs all the way down to the bottom.
And it's got kind of a foot type section.
And then you've got a small bulge at the bottom that's about 1 centimeter in depth. And in the 2 days or 3, I didn't drink any yesterday, but in the 2 days that I've had this, I've gotten down to that bottom centimeter bulge. So
God, we need to let him go, Kat. We need to let him go.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that we have, as I say, we have covered pretty much all the topics.
And plenty others besides.
And plenty others besides.
So I don't think there's going to be anything to cover for the next 6 months, I say.
You fucking wish, mate. We'll be right back here next week bashing the same old horse with the same old stick.
See, that's the thing, is people say
I
that
will
there's
have
no use
shit
in
to
flogging
talk
your dead
about next
horse.
week.
But
Yeah, I will have shit to talk about next week,
yeah.
and
the new cycle,
yeah, people are more than willing. I'm more than happy for people to send me a DM on Twitter, or even just a tweet on Twitter and say, "Yeah, can I get in on the action?"
Hey.
So yeah, if folks want to join us next week, just send me a tweet or send me a DM and say, "Yeah, I want to join in the chat. I have something to talk about, and I want to rant, and I'm game."
Yeah.
So
Closing thoughts. People say that there's no use in flogging your dead horse. I strongly disagree. There's lots to be made from flogging your dead horse. I mean, look at Findus.
Glue for a start.
Well, Findus. Their lasagnas. We made a load of money on their
Sammy, you would
lasagnas.
fucking say that when I'm taking a mouthful of drink, wouldn't you?
I timed it specifically.
Final thoughts
Okay,
from
so
Mr. Mortal. Don't fucking blame plastic figurines for your fur problems, you... Go and find a boy toy. The guy mowing your yard might be good. Is his name Jose? Excellent. Give him $5.
Well, final thought from Sushikat. Do your own personal research and don't fucking just take people at face value.
And final thoughts from Monkey. Drink responsibly, please.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
You can tell he doesn't follow that particular stricture because he's had 2 sets of final thoughts.
Yeah, this is do as I say, not as I
It's an
do.
experience.
And contrary to Monkey see, Monkey do. So, yeah.
So, I have been Sushikat, and I hope you've all had a fantastic day or night.
And I have been Mortal. I hope you have enjoyed our long, rambly and aimless amble through the hinterland of politics and gender identity. Oh no, shit, I mentioned it. Run for the hills.
And I have been Monkey. I want to go to bed.
Goodbye,
Bye.
Di, since you're the only current watcher.
Yeah, bye, Di.
Goodbye, Di.